a spectacular Sunday morning high on Cheyenne Mountain, 15 miles west of Colorado Springs. Michael Berry and Shane Minozzi have been hiking the mountain trail since dawn. They're just about to break for lunch.
As they're hiking, one of the individuals kind of trips over something. He looks down to see what it is, picks it up, and identifies it as a blue-colored shirt.
Oh, that's weird.
Thinking the owner might come back for it, Michael leaves the shirt where he found it. But a few steps later, he makes another unusual discovery.
Look, starting to get a little freaked out.
You know, at that point, it's like, this doesn't seem right.
They continue to hike a little bit more.
Then they discovered something that didn't look too good at all.
Dudes, look. What? What is that? I don't know, man.
They then find this blanket, which, as they approach, they start to notice a very offensive odor.
What is that? Oh my gosh!
When they pull it back and see what they believe to be a human body.
Down in the valley below, Lt.Joe Kenda is spending Sunday afternoon catching up on his list of household chores.
I'm out mowing my grass with an old gasoline-powered lawnmower that made enough noise to wake the dead.
Joe!
When I was doing that, he couldn't hear anything.
Joe! Joe! They're on the phone again. They're on the phone again.
So I turn off the mower and pick up the phone.
This is Kenda.
Dispatch tells Kenda that human remains have been found on Cheyenne Mountain.
The body's decomposed and patrol is asking for investigators.
All right, I'm on the way.
See you next Sunday.
Sorry, Kenda.
She looked annoyed. Again, everything is as usual.
By the time Kenda arrives, the first response unit has set up at the base of the mountain trail to direct his investigative team to the crime scene.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Gentlemen, so where's the body at?
It's straight down this trail, about half a mile. I'll take you down there if you want.
Okay, great.
Kenda hikes up to the scene, where he finds a smaller than usual response team.
There is no medical there because this is decomposed remains, so there's no fire truck, there's no ambulance, there's no EMTs.
Hi, T. How you doing? Good. So we got human remains up here underneath the blue blanket. Body's in pretty bad shape.
There are enormous changes that take place in the human body during decomposition.
Bloating, color change in the skin, very difficult to say race. So your investigation starts off in a hole deeper than normal.
Any personal belongings or ID?
She was naked when the hikers found her. Other than this blue shirt and sandals, nothing really.
There's no identifying factors on the victim's body, whether it be jewelry, wallet, or anything like that. So we're challenged by trying to identify this person.
The victim's body has also been ravaged by the forces of nature.
Unfortunately, there's been a lot of carnivorous activity.
Whether it be from the smallest field mouse to coyotes to wolves, any carnivore could come in and disturb the scene by chewing on the victim. It just compounds the investigation because they may be taking critical evidence with them.
What little remains of the victim suggests she suffered an unthinkably savage attack.
The body's so decomposed, it's going to be hard to determine the cause of death. But there are clear signs of sexual assault.
One of the really disturbing parts of the crime that allowed them to know it was a female was because she had been raped with a stick. The stick was left protruding from the body.
The first impression I had of this is just an incredible amount of violence and an incredible amount of rage. Who could have done something like this?
Lieutenant, we did find a foreign substance on her.
There is a spot on the victim's leg, which was believed to be possibly semen that was recovered from the scene.
Is there enough to pull a DNA test?
It's tough to tell, but we'll get everything we can here.
We are at the beginning stages of the use of DNA testing and the capabilities of that testing. We don't know how much of a sample is required to make a test result.
The samples collected at the scene will be analyzed using existing DNA technology, then stored for additional testing in the future.
All of her fingers are still intact. Possibly we can ID the body with prints.
As the woman's body is removed from the mountain, the quest to identify her begins.
Hey, we discovered a body of a female, small in stature.
The first step is to contact missing persons and determine if there's anybody that recently, in the last couple of weeks, has been reported missing who matches the general physical description of this body.
Come in. Hey, Lieutenant, missing persons might have a match for us.
They return with the information of an individual named Sharon Sklavos, who they describe as a 30-year-old Hispanic woman who is 4'10" and weighs 105 pounds. That general physical description matches the remains that we have found.
That afternoon, the coroner's office cross-references the name Sharon Sklavos with existing print and dental records.
Hey, Doc.
Hey, Joe. Give me just a second.
They take the latent fingerprints that they've recovered from the remains. They compare them to the inked impressions.
Looks like we have a match.
This is Sharon Sklavos. All 10 fingers match.
The fingerprints also reveal a critical detail about Sharon's past.
Why do you have her fingerprints on file? Did she have a record?
I know her criminal record's clean. These come from a psychiatric facility.
So she was committed.
Yes, sir, in 1984.
When you have a victim and you find out that they're a mental health patient, it aggravates the investigation. Any one of her mental state factors could come into play when you're trying to determine what happened to this victim.
Also, we detected alcohol in her system. She had been drinking that night.
All right, thank you.
Kenda's next step is to notify Sharon Sklavos' next of kin, her sister, Angela Martinez.
Sharon comes from an extremely large family, a very close-knit family, and now we have to give them the worst possible news.
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but we found Sharon. She's no longer alive.
It's everybody's worst fear. It was a huge moment of grief for them.
I know this is difficult, but we need to ask you a few questions so we can find out who did this to her.
Okay.
Man, we know about Sharon's mental health issues, but could you possibly tell us the nature of her problems?
Angela reports that Sharon suffered this nervous breakdown approximately 10 years earlier.
Can you tell us what happened?
Her husband committed suicide right in front of her and she never recovered.
She has apparently become an 8-year-old in terms of her emotional state.
Ever since her breakdown, Sharon has lived with her sister Angela.
Sharon would spend her days helping out with grandnieces and grandnephews, helping them with crafts. She enjoyed working in the yard and helping with gardening.
Can you tell us what happened the night she disappeared?
I usually never like to leave Sharon alone. But that night I got a call to go into work.
Hello? Tonight?
Angela has to go to cover someone's work shift.
Sharon, honey, I have to work tonight, okay? Okay. Good night, sweetie. I'm locking the door. Don't let anyone in, okay? Okay. Okay.
Angela tells Kenda that when she returned home from work the following morning,
Hello, Sharon.
the house was eerily quiet.
She goes to Sharon's room
Sharon.
to discover that Sharon is not there and her bed has not been slept in.
With no sign of Sharon, her family reported her missing.
Because of her mental state, family members were worried that she'd be vulnerable to strangers.
She usually likes to be outside and wave at the cars, waiting for somebody to wave back at her.
Kenda wonders if Sharon might have gotten into the car of a passing stranger.
This kind of person, given her circumstances, means that she's a victim in search of a crime scene. It makes her an incredibly innocent and in some ways tragic potential victim of a crime. We are investigating the original disappearance and ultimate death of Sharon Squavos, the 30-year-old mentally handicapped female whose badly decomposed body has been found in the mountains close to Colorado Springs. We are in contact with her sister and care provider, Angela Martinez.
Angela has informed police that her sister Sharon was unable to assess danger and often initiated contact with strangers.
Was she known to get in any vehicles with people she didn't know?
No, never. She waved at cars and that was just good enough for her.
Angela, the coroner found alcohol in Sharon's system.
Ay, Dios mío.
Did she have access to alcohol?
No. No, not at all.
But Angela's daughter Bianca seems to know something more than she's willing to say in front of her mother.
Bianca, would you mind talking to me outside for a minute?
Sure.
We need to separate the two of them and speak to Bianca away from the presence of her mother.
Do you know something about what happened to Sharon?
I'm not sure what happened to Sharon, but you said they found she was drinking?
That's right.
Well, my mom has this boyfriend, and I've seen him give her alcohol before.
And she thinks that's an awful thing. And she just is suspicious of him and his behavior.
And I told him not to do it because she was sick. I don't know, maybe he thought it was funny or something.
It would be obvious to anyone that no one should provide alcohol, a mood-altering drug, to a person who suffers from mental illness. So the fact that he did that certainly is a red flag.
And what's his boyfriend's name?
Jose Ruiz?
You know where I can find him?
Probably the wagon wheel.
Bianca tells me that Jose Ruiz is a regular at a local nightclub, pool hall, and bar well known to the police.
He goes there all the time.
Well, thank you, Bianca.
The wagon wheel is just a place where bad stuff happens, and those places draw a crowd of people that are pretty good at making bad stuff happen.
Many of these people are criminals. They know based on the cheap suit and the clean shoes that you are the man.
We're looking for a Jose Ruiz. Has anybody seen him? I know he's a regular here.
No one wants to see us, and no one wants to talk to us.
Listen, right now we're just looking for Jose. We're not looking for anybody else. But if no one can tell me where to find him, we most certainly could be looking for someone else.
So it's in everyone's interest to tell me who Jose Ruiz is.
Which one of you two is Jose? Who's asking? I am, CSPD. Yeah, that's me.
He is, in fact, Jose Ruiz. He's the correct Jose Ruiz.
You know Angela Martinez?
Yes.
You know Sharon Squavos?
Yeah.
So I explained to him that we're investigating her disappearance on the 22nd of last month.
Where were you that night?
I was right here.
Shooting pool in this bar. Who can verify that? Well, he can, my friend. And he points to the guy he's playing with.
Who were you?
Raphael.
Raphael what? Valderrama.
Rafael confirms that both he and Jose were shooting pool on the night that she disappeared, and that they were there all night together.
Jose, I'm sorry to inform you that Sharon was raped and murdered on Cheyenne Mountain.
What? My God, that's terrible.
I'm just not comfortable with his reaction to the discovery of her death.
I can't believe it, not Sharon.
It seemed feigned to me. It's as if he wasn't surprised. Now, who would not be surprised? Someone who knows about it.
Would you two mind coming down to the station, answer a few more questions?
Sure.
Jose has no problem cooperating. That's a plus for his side. So off we go to the police station.
The two men are interrogated separately, starting with Jose Ruiz.
Why don't you talk about the night Sharon disappeared?
I was shooting pool at the bar with Rafael.
She had it
This for school. Better order those shots.
Waitress, can we get another round?
They have a bunch of drinks and they get pretty toasted. And they decide that they're going to go over to see Angela. So Rafael goes with him.
You gotta work on your game, homeboy.
You got lucky.
Yeah, I got lucky. Ange, you here? Yeah, come on.
Nah, I need to get back.
Come on in, it's early.
Not tonight, man. I need to head home.
Man, fine then, man.
Jose says Rafael leaves. He thinks he can't remember because he was drinking a lot. Jose comes in the house with his key looking for Angela.
Ange, you here?
She's not there.
Where was Sharon then?
I don't know. I didn't see her.
Jose says he decided to crash on the couch for the night.
When he wakes up in the morning, he gets up. There's no Sharon there then.
Where was she?
I have no idea.
So his alibi is, in some ways, the best kind. He doesn't have one.
Jose, I'm gonna have to ask you to submit to a biological sample. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure, I guess so. I don't have anything to hide.
Officer?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and get a swab from him.
One room over, another of Kenda's men interviews Rafael Balderrama. His statement is almost identical to Jose's.
I dropped him off at Angela's and went home. That was it.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get a biological sample from you.
DNA science is very new. I don't know if we have sufficient amounts of exemplars from the remains to compare to the samples we've just taken. But I know that if it's ever going to be happening, we need the samples to begin with.
Though both Jose and Rafael willingly submit DNA samples, the tests are not yet sophisticated enough to determine if either is a match for the genetic evidence collected at the crime scene.
They simply didn't have the technology necessary to test the evidence recovered from Sharon's body. That DNA had not quite progressed to that point yet.
Go ahead and unhook him. All right, you guys are free to go.
We didn't have any physical evidence to be able to hold these two individuals for this crime, so all we really could do was release them.
2 weeks roll by. With no new breaks in the case, Kenda is at a loss.
I'm sitting in my office driving myself crazy over the Sklavos case. Despite all of our effort, we're not anywhere better than we were day one, and we're at like day 30, and I'm not a happy camper.
Then, the investigation takes a radical turn.
This guy.
We've got a double shooting at the wagon wheel.
Okay.
One is dead, one is alive. The one who's alive is Rafael Balderrama. Well, my, Rafael. What are you doing being involved in a shooting? Here we are, stuck in neutral in the Sklavos case when a call comes in about a shooting in the same bar where two persons of interest in the Stavros case spend their time.
When Lieutenant Kenda arrives at the Wagon Wheel Bar, he finds a chaotic scene.
Hey, Brian. Lieutenant. So what do we got? Oh, we got two shot in front of the food truck over here. One of them by the name of Rafael Valderrama. Who's the other one? Marcus Castillo.
Marcus Castillo happens to be Rafael's cousin.
Marcus was a recent arrival from Mexico, and he is pronounced DOA at the hospital, multiple gunshot wounds to the chest.
Marcos Castillo was a sad story. He was 25, but apparently he'd come to the States and sort of vacillated a little bit and then made the decision to stay.
But Marcus's dreams for a new life have been cut short.
What's the condition of Rafael Valderrama? He's shot in the leg. He's en route to the hospital.
With a gunshot wound to the leg, he's not going to be under anesthesia. He's not going to be under anything. They're going to treat him and release him from the hospital.
How old are the victims, son? Right over here, son.
There are bloodstains on the sidewalk at the approximate location where the victims were found. There are small caliber expended casings on the sidewalk. A number of shots have been fired.
That's what are you hearing from the witnesses?
They're saying the two Vics were in line getting some food.
So a rimfire 22 long rifle.
Witnesses report the shots being fired from a pistol.
What else are they saying?
They're saying it all started in the bar.
There's a verbal confrontation between the two shooting victims and the two people that wind up shooting them. Words are exchanged, and this is all over the girl that was murdered and found in the mountains last month.
This detail catches Kenda's attention.
That's Sharon Slavos. These cases are obviously linked. We can determine who's responsible for this crime. It may lead us in the direction we need to go to solve the death of Sharon Slavos.
I want to talk to the bartender. Sounds good.
The bartender has helped us in the past, so he talked to her.
So what happened tonight?
Well, Rafael came in with his cousin Marcus.
Marcus Castillo just got here from Mexico, so they came over to the bar to celebrate his arrival.
What are you doing? Relax, relax. But then it got kind of out of hand and they started yelling at each other.
Do you have any idea what they were saying?
It was pretty loud, you know, but I did hear the taller guy ask Rafael, why'd you do it?
Why'd you do what?
I don't know.
And then it broke up. And I thought it was over. Until sometime later, I hear shots outside.
Do you happen to see who the shooters were?
No, I never seen them before.
Well, thanks, Claire.
No problem.
So now our next step is let's go see Rafael. We know who Marcus is. It's his cousin. We know they're in a confrontation. And we know the small Hispanic guy had said something to him. Why did you do it? My question is, why did you do what, Rafael?
Within the hour, Kenda is sitting across from Rafael in a recovery room at Memorial Hospital.
I need you to tell me about the shooting tonight. Let's start with the people that shot you. Do you know them?
Yeah. The big guy's name is Chris Kenny.
How about the other one?
Ed Rubio. He always had it out for me.
And why is that?
He thinks me and Jose killed Sharon.
Did you?
No. Sharon was like a sister to me.
So that is the motive. We just don't know the details yet. We further know who.
All right, Rafael. You're probably going to be seeing more of me. So don't plan on leaving town or anything. You understand?
Yeah, whatever.
Lieutenant Kenda, dispatch. If I get a record check on an Ed Rubio and a Chris Kenny.
It doesn't take the records department long to provide Kenda with the information he's looking for.
We discover criminal histories on both individuals. They provide Rubio's address. He's my person of interest.
10-4, Kenda out.
So we go directly to Rubio's house.
Police, open up.
The door starts to open, And I'm looking at a female, and I am quite frankly surprised.
Bianca?
What are you doing here, and what does that have to do with this? So we've been navigating this complicated minefield of two brutal murder cases that are somehow interconnected, and I'm not sure how. And we now are involved in the pursuit of a person we know is responsible for the shooting death of Marcus Castillo and the wounding of Rafael Valderrama.
Lt.Joe Kenda has tracked down an address for the man suspected of shooting Valderrama and Castillo. One Ed Rubio. But when he knocks on Rubio's door, Kenda is greeted by a familiar face.
Bianca?
When we arrive at his home of record, Sharon Sklavos' niece, Bianca, answers the door. How is this person connected to one murder and now perhaps connected to another?
Lieutenant Kenda? What are you doing here?
Do you know Ed Rubio?
Yes, he's my husband.
Ed Rubio is your husband.
Well, that certainly explains that. Now that we know the connection between Ed Rubio and Sharon Sklavos, that he is married to her niece, it's glaringly obvious to me that Rubio attacks Rafael for killing Sharon Sklavos, and he makes a mistake. He wounds his intended target, and he kills a bystander, Marcus Castillo, who's been in this country for exactly 2 days.
Is he here?
Uh-huh. Ed, honey?
What's up?
Sir Rubio, could you step outside, please?
What's going on?
It's okay.
He is not armed, he is cooperative and somewhat docile.
Put your hands behind your back.
I didn't do anything.
Oh,
Ed Rubio, you're under arrest for first-degree
he
murder.
didn't do anything.
We handcuff him and remove him from the home.
What's going on? What is this about? He didn't do anything. Please stop. Ed.
Across town, Kenda's men have taken the second suspect, Chris Kenny, into custody.
So we have both of our people almost immediately, and we're now going to conduct an interrogation of both of them separately.
Chris Kenny is first to be interrogated.
So what happened last night?
We're just shooting pool like normal. And Rafael comes in, and, you know, Ed just gets pissed.
His mere appearance seems to set Ed off.
What are you doing?
Hey, man, what's your problem? Do what?
Hey, guys, relax, relax. Relax, come on. Hey, kill Sharon. Come on, take it easy. Get out of my way. Come on, relax.
Ed goes back to shooting pool, but he continues to talk about it.
Ed. Then finally Rafael left. You know, Ed just couldn't take it. And
let's go.
He goes outside after him.
Yeah, let me get a burrito with everything on it. Don't do much else out there.
Ed decides that enough is enough. Both of these men are shot. They fall down as soon as the shots are fired.
Come on, let's get out of here, man. Come on, man, let's get out of here.
Somebody call an ambulance!
The other guy is... I don't even know him.
You go ahead and stay with him. I'll be back.
Sir.
In an adjoining interview room, Kenda's men question Ed Rubio, who's surprisingly forthcoming and unapologetic about the shooting.
I saw Mel start laughing, I just snapped.
He had to pay for what he did to Sharon.
Revenge begins as white-hot rage. Then it simmers for a while. And when circumstances permit, the trigger can be anything.
So then what about Marcus? Why'd you shoot him?
I didn't mean to. He got in the way, man.
Ed's intent is to kill Rafael. It was not his intention to shoot Marcus Castillo, so this emotion of revenge has resulted in what? Rafael is alive, a perfect stranger is dead, and Ed Rubio's going to jail, and so is his friend, Christopher Kenny. Not exactly the result they had in mind. There isn't going to be a victory parade starring Ed. There's going to be a bus ride to the Colorado Department of Corrections.
It's clear to Kenda that the shooting of Marcus Castillo and Rafael Balderrama is an attempt on Ed Rubio's part to avenge the death of Sharon Sklavos. But Kenda isn't convinced that proves either Balderrama or Jose Ruiz has anything to do with the Sklavos murder.
All right, we need to get Jose Ruiz back in here.
Yes, sir.
Let's find Rafael also. I want to see if their stories have changed at all.
Sometimes time is on our side to where people forget what they said. They provide different stories indicative of a lie at one point, so we really would like to interview them again.
But hours later, Kenda's team returns with troubling news.
Rafael's gone, sir.
Gone? Where?
Nobody knows.
Rafael's been released from the hospital. He has not gone to work. He has not gone home. He is nowhere to be found.
What about Jose?
His girlfriend said he went to Mexico.
Mexico?
Yes, sir.
If Jose has made it to Mexico, I do not believe we will ever find him, see him, or be able to apprehend him. Mexico is a foreign country, but in most ways, it's another planet. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling when it's so important to me to do every case, and I just can't get there.
Without a confession or concrete physical evidence to work with, the investigation into Sharon Sklavos' murder goes cold.
I did solve 92% of my cases, but 8% I didn't. And the 8% tortured me then, and they torture me now.
But even with the coldest of cases, Kenda knows there's always hope.
So there's all sorts of reasons why cold cases get resolved, sometimes years later. Sometimes things never change, sometimes they never go anywhere, but sometimes they do. At this point in this investigation, we have resolved the death of Marcus Castillo by arrest and by confession.
Edward Rubio and Christopher Kenny both plead guilty to second-degree murder and are sentenced to 32 years in prison. But the case of Sharon Sklavos remains unsolved.
Can I avenge the death of Sharon Sklavos at this point in my life? No, I cannot. And I wind up retiring from the police department with that case hanging over my head.
In 2001, a cold case unit was created to periodically review unsolved homicides, including Sharon's. Then in 2010, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation re-examines the DNA evidence in her case.
The CBI says there has been a dramatic change in DNA testing, and they are now willing to proceed with a test. They determine, in their considered scientific opinion, that Jose Ruiz is responsible for the sexual assault of Sharon Sklavos at the time of her death, just as I suspected.
With conclusive DNA evidence linking Jose Ruiz to Sharon's murder, the cold case unit mounts a full-scale manhunt for Ruiz and his suspected accomplice, Rafael Balderrama.
I found something on Balderrama.
What is it?
Looks like he's dead.
So Rafael's ability to be prosecuted is now off the table. They are left only with the prosecution of Jose Ruiz. His location at that moment was unknown.
Finally, in March of 2012, the cold case unit catches a break.
Jose Ruiz has applied for and received some benefits from the Social Security Administration. They are able to determine that he is working as a roofer in the state of Nebraska.
The officers also obtain a phone number for Ruiz's family.
Hello, may I speak to Mr. Ruiz?
The cold case unit gets in touch with him through members of his family, and they scam him.
Can you get him an urgent message? Yes, I'm calling from the Social Security Administration.
The cold case unit tells his family to tell Jose that someone is stealing his checks, and he has to come to Colorado so he can get his money.
Within the week, Jose Ruiz arrives at Colorado Springs Social Security Administration.
Oh, how may I help you?
Yeah, I'm here to pick up my Social Security checks.
May I see some identification?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz. Please have a seat over there, and we'll be right with you.
They have him take a seat,
I have Mr. Jose Ruiz here.
and they call the police.
Jose Ruiz, you're under arrest for the rape and murder of Sharon Sklava. Stand up and put your hands behind your back.
What are you talking about? Oh, man.
Whereupon Jose is arrested by warrant and charged with first-degree murder.
With the new DNA results as evidence, the case goes to trial in 2013. The prosecution lays out the events they believe took place back in the summer of 1994.
Sharon was left alone because her sister got called in to work a night shift.
Good night, sweetie. I'm locking the door. Don't let anyone in, okay?
Okay. Sharon was quite obedient. The problem was, Jose, the sister's boyfriend, had a key.
You got lucky. Yeah, I got lucky. Yeah, I'm about to get lucky. And you home?
Jose comes in the house with his key looking for Angela and finds out she's not there.
Prosecutors argue that contrary to their original statements, Rafael Balderrama entered the home alongside Jose.
Hey, Sharon. Hey.
Hey. She was so mentally compromised at that point. You know, she would not have known how dangerous the situation was.
You're looking really pretty. Did you just get your hair done?
Mm-hmm.
Where the bruise, bro?
Hey, Sharon. You want a drink? Huh?
No. I'm not supposed to.
No?
No,
Why
thank
not? I'm sad. Yeah.
Angie.
No, it's okay. You can try it. She told me it was okay.
He and Rafael started feeding her alcohol.
Come on, Sharon. You want to dance? Let me see your dance moves. Come on.
Dancing?
Yeah. Hold on. Get over here. You want to dance? Come on.
Danced with her a little bit. Started to build her trust.
Very good. It's okay. It's okay, Sharon. Come on.
Where are we going?
I'm going for a walk.
Hey, Art.
According to the prosecution, at approximately 3 a.m., Jose Ruiz and Rafael Balderrama drove Sharon to an isolated section of Cheyenne Mountain.
When they became more physical, sexually physical towards her,
Sharon!
she ran, fell down. They overtook her, trying to capture her, and actually sexually assaulted her.
It was, in the most classic sense, overkill. I mean, she had been raped, and she'd been raped with a stick. They bashed her over the head.
And then strangled her, leaving her in the mountains to be found by our hikers.
Come on, let's get her out of here. Come on.
It wound up going from just a really awful, salacious sexual assault on essentially a child to a death of such brutality and anger.
Nearly 20 years after the death of Sharon Sklavos, Jose Ruiz is convicted in court of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and sexual assault, and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
But Jose's sentence offers little consolation to the Sklavos family.
With this case, I think it's just the brutality of the circumstances. She was discovered in a remote mountain area. There was direct evidence of sexual assault on site, and I think the idea of someone with the mind of a child being disposed of in this way is part of what makes this such a haunting crime.
Another sad part of Sharon's murder is that it led to the subsequent murder of another individual who was with the wrong person at the wrong time and killed for the wrong reason.
This case becomes two cases who are deeply interconnected. Everything that could happen badly did in these cases. However, there is something known as the long arm of the law, and it reached out and tapped Jose Ruiz on the shoulder 20 years after the fact.
At 2:17 a.m., a payphone on Bloor Street rings once, twice, then goes dead, like someone changed their mind mid-breath, and that tiny, ordinary sound becomes the last clean thing anyone can agree on in this case, because after that, Toronto starts speaking in static and shadows, and the year 1994 never really ends for the people who were there, the people who listened, the people who keep waking up to the same question: how does a person vanish in a city that never stops watching itself in glass? It begins the way so many nightmares begin, quiet, almost polite, on a Thursday night that smells like rain and exhaust and late coffee, the kind of spring air that makes streetlights look softer than they are. The neighborhood is still awake. Bars are closing. Taxis circle like patient sharks. A subway train sighs into a station and pulls away again, carrying away strangers who will never know they were inches from a story that will outlive them. And somewhere between the familiar hum of downtown and the darker stretches beyond, a young woman steps out of her life and into legend. Her name is Leah Carver. 24 years old. A receptionist by day, a student by night, the kind of person who keeps receipts folded in perfect squares and writes reminders on the backs of envelopes, the kind of person whose friends describe her as careful, organized, not reckless, not wild. She lives in a third-floor walk-up near the annex with creaky stairs and a mail slot that bites your fingers if you're not paying attention. She calls her mother every Sunday. She never misses rent. She's the type of missing person that makes detectives uneasy, because the easy ones make sense. Leah doesn't. The last confirmed sighting is a grainy security camera at a convenience store, time-stamped 11:42 p.m. She's buying gum and a carton of milk, hair tucked behind one ear, a soft jacket buttoned up against the chill. There's a brief blur of someone behind her, taller, hooded, indistinct, just a smear of motion that could be nothing. Could be everything. The clerk remembers her because she apologized for being slow with change. That's the kind of detail that sticks, because it doesn't fit the shape of what comes next. Leah leaves the store and disappears into the city's bloodstream, sidewalks, alleys, crosswalks, parking lots, places that swallow footsteps the way water swallows light. By midnight, her roommates are half asleep. By 1 a.m., the milk is still not in the fridge. By morning, her bed is untouched, her toothbrush dry, her jacket missing from the hook. Her purse is gone. Her keys are gone. Her wallet is gone. But her passport remains, tucked in a drawer, and the money she was saving for tuition is still in its envelope under a stack of textbooks. It's not a runaway scene. It's a snap cut. A hard edit. A life interrupted mid-sentence. When police arrive, the apartment looks normal, too normal, like a stage reset after a show. No broken glass. No overturned furniture. No frantic note. On her desk is an open notebook with a list of errands and a single line underlined twice, call about Thursday. No name. No number. Just that. A promise without a subject. The community reacts fast. Flyers bloom on poles and storefront windows. Her face appears on the evening news, framed by worried eyes and a cautious smile. Friends organize search parties. Neighbors turn into amateur investigators, dissecting the last known route like it's a sacred map. And then, 2 days later, the city gets its first taste of the weird. A woman walking her dog near the Don Valley pathway finds a shoe in the mud. Not buried, not hidden, just sitting there, half sunk, as if it drifted in on a current that doesn't exist. It's a black flat. The brand matches one Leah owned. The size matches. There's scuffing on the toe. Inside, pressed into the insole, there's something darker than dirt, something that looks like a smear caught between worlds. Police bag it. Photograph it. Log it. The dog's owner tells reporters the shoe felt placed, like someone wanted it found. Like bait. The next item turns up a week later in a public trash bin outside a subway station, Spardina, they think, but the paperwork argues about it for years. Leah's student ID, bent slightly, as if someone tried to snap it and failed. No wallet. No cards. Just the ID. The kind of object that doesn't matter unless you want it to matter. Detectives build a timeline out of scraps. Leah was supposed to meet a friend for coffee earlier that evening but cancelled, saying she was tired. She called her father at 7:19 p.m. and said she had something weird she needed to handle, but she sounded fine, he said, just distracted. She went to a bookstore on Bloor around 9:30 p.m. and asked the cashier if they had any books on self-defense. She bought pepper spray, legal at the time in a grey market sense, and a small can of it is missing from her apartment. She withdrew $40 from an ATM at 10:58 p.m. The bank camera shows her glancing over her shoulder as she takes the cash, the expression on her face not fear exactly, but awareness. A flicker. A split-second warning that nobody could read until it was too late. And then there's the call. 2:17 a.m. A payphone rings. A man answers in a small apartment across town. Leah's ex-boyfriend, Mark Lennox, 26, freelance photographer, the kind of guy who says the right things with the wrong timing. He claims the phone woke him. He claims he didn't recognize the number. He claims he picked up and heard breathing, then a soft sound, like fabric rubbing against a microphone, then a whisper. One word. He can never settle on what it was. Help, he says at first. Later he says it might have been Leah. Later he says it might have been nothing at all. He hangs up. He goes back to sleep. He doesn't mention it until police interview him days later, and by then it's not just a call, it's a stain. Mark becomes the first suspect, because he's available and familiar and imperfect. He and Leah broke up 2 months earlier. Friends say it was amicable, in the way people say amicable, when they want the story to stop. There were arguments. There were tears. There were late-night visits to talk it out. He admits he drove past her building sometimes. He admits he missed her. He denies threatening her. Police ask where he was that night. He says he was home. Alone. No one can confirm. An alibi built from silence is still silence. They search his place. They find nothing that screams. No blood. No hair. No ripped fabric. But they do find a roll of duct tape in a drawer, and in 1994 duct tape looks like motive to anyone who's seen a crime scene photo. They take it anyway. They take his cameras. They take his negatives. They find photographs of Leah, some normal, some intimate, none illegal, yet the idea of her face framed in his lens begins to poison the public's imagination. The tabloids bite down hard. Ex-boyfriend questioned. Toronto woman missing, dark romance angle. Police close in. And then, quietly, painfully, they don't. Because the case refuses to choose an easy villain. A witness comes forward. A taxi driver who claims he picked up a woman matching Leah's description near the annex around 12:30 a.m. He says she was quiet. He says she asked to be dropped near the lake. He says she looked like she'd been crying, but he isn't sure. Everyone looks like that at night in the rearview mirror. He can't remember the exact intersection. The meter receipt is gone. The taxi log is incomplete. The city shrugs. Memory rots quickly when it isn't fed. Another witness, a bartender, who says Leah came into his place around 1 a.m. She ordered water. She asked to use the phone. She left before finishing the glass. He swears it was her. Then he changes his mind after seeing another missing person on TV, and realizing faces can blur into whichever tragedy you're currently afraid of. Then there's the rumor that hits like a brick. Someone says they saw Leah arguing with a man near an alley off Brunswick Avenue, a man with a long coat and a pale face, a man who kept glancing up and down the street like he was checking for cameras that didn't exist yet. Someone says the man had a ring with a strange symbol. Someone says Leah looked scared. Someone says they heard her say, "I told you no." Someone says they heard him reply, "You don't get to tell me no." No one can name the witness. No one can find them again. In the world of unsolved cases, rumors are currency, and the poor pay with hope. Weeks pass. Search teams comb ravines, rail corridors, abandoned lots. The Don River becomes a suspect. The ravines become suspects. The lake becomes a suspect, cold and vast and patient. Divers go in. Dogs sniff the wind. Helicopters sweep tree lines. And Toronto, a city built on forward motion, starts looking behind itself for the first time, uneasy with the idea that you can do everything right and still be taken. Detectives receive anonymous tips, most of them useless, some of them cruel. Check the construction site. She ran away. She's dead. I saw her in Montreal. One caller claims Leah is being kept in a basement. Another claims she's been sold. Another claims it's a serial killer. The police file grows thick, swollen with paper and panic, yet nothing anchors it. No body. No weapon. No confirmed crime scene. Just a missing person, a shoe in mud, an ID in a bin, and a phone call that arrived like a ghost knocking once and disappearing. The breakthrough, if you can call it that, won't come for years, and even then it won't be the kind that closes a door. It will be the kind that opens a second one and shows you darkness behind darkness. But even in the beginning, even in 1994, when the air was still full of fresh flyers and the volunteers still believed in daylight, there was already a sense that the case had a mind of its own, that it was designed to resist, to fracture, to leave everyone holding a different piece of the same nightmare. Because in the days after Leah vanished, a cassette tape appears in the mailbox of the lead detective, no return address, no note, just a cheap plastic case with a single word written in block letters, "Listen." And when they press play, the tape doesn't give them answers, not clean ones, not the kind you can staple to a warrant, but it gives them something far worse, a soundscape of a city at night, distant traffic, a muffled thump like a trunk closing, and a woman's voice, quiet, trembling, controlled like she's trying not to scream, saying, "Please don't, I'll do it. I'll do it." Followed by a man's voice so close to the microphone it feels like he's breathing into your ear, saying, "Good. Then prove it." And then the tape cuts out so abruptly it's like someone ripped the cord from the wall. No one can confirm it's Leah. No one can deny it might be. And once you've heard it, once that voice settles into the back of your skull, the city changes shape, because now every alley has an echo, every payphone has a memory, every late-night walk home feels like you're stepping into the same unfinished sentence, and somewhere in Toronto, beneath all the neon and concrete and ordinary life, something that happened in 1994 is still happening, still looping, still waiting for the right person to finally pick up the phone and hear the rest. The tape doesn't just land on a desk, it detonates, it turns a missing person file into a crime, it forces the city to stop pretending this is a misunderstanding that will resolve itself with a phone call and an apology, and for Detective Alan Mercer 42, tired eyes, coffee breath, a man who has learned the hard way that hope can be evidence's worst enemy, the sound of that woman's voice becomes a second heartbeat under everything he does, because once you've heard a plea recorded in the dark, you can't go back to paperwork and posters and polite questions. You start hearing desperation in every pause. You start seeing hands where there were only shadows. They lock the cassette in an evidence bag, log it, photograph it, treat it like it's radioactive, and then they do what the early 90s allows. They play it again and again until the magnetic strip begins to feel like it's pulling at their nerves. They send it to the audio lab, a cramped room full of machines that hum like insects, where technicians in headphones squint at waveforms and tell Mercer what he already suspects. That the tape is real, not a prank stitched from movie lines, but it's also a maze, recorded in a space they can't identify, with background noise that could be anywhere in Toronto, anywhere that has traffic and walls and the kind of silence that comes with someone holding their breath. A specialist points out the details like bulletins, the distant rattle of an older TTC streetcar, maybe, the faint chirp of a pedestrian signal, maybe, the dull, single impact that sounds like a car door closing or a fist on a tabletop, maybe, and the woman's voice, strangled but steady, as if she's forcing herself to be coherent, as if she believes someone will later listen for proof that she tried. The man's voice is closer, almost intimate, which is worse, no yelling, no frantic rage, just calm control, the tone of someone who thinks he owns the night. Mercer pushes for a voice comparison, but the database is thin, the tech is blunt, and the answer is not the one people want. They can't conclusively match the woman to Leah. They can't exclude her, either. It's a coin balanced on its edge, and the entire case starts wobbling around it. The media smells it immediately. Mystery tape sent to police. Chilling audio may hold key. Missing Toronto woman, kidnapped. Reporters crowd the station. Cameras flash in Mercer's face like lightning. Leah's mother, Sandra, stands at a podium with a jaw set so tight it looks like it might crack. And she says her daughter is not a headline, her daughter is not a rumor, her daughter is not a lesson. But the city has already turned it into a lesson anyway, the kind you teach by fear. Don't walk alone, don't trust strangers, don't use payphones, don't think the streetlights are for you. Behind the noise, Mercer's team does what they always do. They build a map from fragments and pray it starts making sense. They go back to Leah's apartment, comb it again with the obsessive patience that comes from shame, because the first search didn't produce miracles and miracles are what the public expects. A tech dusts the windowsill and finds partial prints, roommates, friends, landlords, the entire messy fingerprint of ordinary life. They photograph fibers on the carpet, strands of hair in a brush, makeup powder in a sink. They bag cigarette butts from the stairwell. They chase every microscopic whisper, because sometimes the whole truth hides in something that looks like lint. And then, in the pocket of a jacket Leah didn't wear that night, still hanging on the hook, still smelling faintly of her shampoo, they find a scrap of paper folded tight, the kind of fold you make when you don't want to look at what you've written. It's a torn corner of a receipt, and on it, in Leah's handwriting, is an address. Not her address. Not anyone's address they recognize at first glance. Just numbers and a street name, Midtown, near a strip of small businesses and quiet apartment blocks, the kind of place people drive past without seeing. Under the address, 2 letters. RM. Mercer feels the case shift. Because this isn't a random snatch. This looks like an appointment. They canvass the area. They knock on doors until their knuckles ache. Most people shrug. Most people don't want to know. But one woman, late 60s, sharp gaze, a voice like paper, remembers a girl matching Leah's photo standing near the corner at around 12:50 a.m., under a streetlight that flickered like it couldn't decide whether to stay on. The girl wasn't alone. There was a car nearby. Dark. 4-door. Maybe a sedan. The woman says the car idled too quietly, like it had just been tuned. The girl leaned in through the passenger window as if listening. As if negotiating. And then, the woman says, the passenger door opened and the girl got in. Voluntary, Mercer thinks, and the word tastes like poison. He asks if she saw the driver. She says no. Too dark. She asks if this is about the missing girl. Mercer doesn't lie. The woman's face tightens, and she says something that chills him more than the tape ever could. You should check who owns the street. In Toronto, 1994, who owns the street is not a metaphor. It's a warning. They run RM through Leah's contacts, through her workplace, through her school records, through every circle she moved in. The hits are messy. There's a professor with those initials. A neighbor. A friend's boyfriend. A manager at a diner. Nothing sticks. But then one name surfaces with a different weight. Ronald Morrow, local landlord, owns multiple properties, including a small building not far from the address on the receipt. He's been cited for code violations. Tenants complain about pressure, late-night visits, misunderstandings that feel like intimidation. Nothing criminal enough to arrest him. Just enough to make people avoid eye contact. Mercer asks for an interview. Morrow shows up in a grey suit that doesn't fit right, smiling like a man who thinks he's too smart for questions. He says he doesn't know Leah. He says he rents to students sometimes, lots of them, faces blur. Mercer slides the photo across the table. Morrow's eyes flicker, one small glitch, then he shrugs. Pretty girl, he says, like that's all. Mercer asks where Morrow was Thursday night. Morrow says he was at home. Mercer asks if he owns a dark sedan. Morrow says he owns 2 cars, both registered, both clean. Mercer asks about the address on the receipt. Morrow says he has buildings everywhere. What do you want him to say? Mercer asks if Leah ever called him. Morrow says no. Mercer asks about the tape. Morrow laughs, a low, confident sound. Sounds like your problem, he says. No confession. No slip. Nothing usable. But Mercer can't unsee the flicker. They pull Morrow's phone records with what legal leverage they can scrape together. Landlines, not cell towers, not digital footprints, just paper trails and patience. There's nothing that screams Leah. There is, however, a cluster of late-night calls to a payphone 2 blocks from the address on Leah's receipt. The calls are brief. Minutes. Seconds. Over the course of weeks before she vanished. It could be coincidence. It could be everything. Mercer orders surveillance, discreet, not wanting to spook a man like Morrow if he's just a rung on a deeper ladder. They sit in unmarked cars. They drink bad coffee. They watch Morrow walk into buildings, collect rent, smile at people who look away, drive off into the night with no obvious destination. And then, one evening, he meets a man in a parking lot near an industrial strip. A man with a shaved head and a leather jacket. A man who keeps his hands in his pockets like they're holding secrets. They talk for 3 minutes. They exchange something small. Paper. Keys. A tape. The officers can't tell. The man with the shaved head gets into a different car and disappears. The case grows tentacles. Meanwhile, Leah's ex, Mark Lennox, becomes a pressure point again, because the public needs a face to blame and Mark is available. Reporters camp outside his building. Someone paints "liar" on his door. He calls Mercer in panic, voice shaking, insisting again he didn't take her, insisting he would have broken if he had, insisting he's being crushed by a story he can't control. Mercer doesn't comfort him. He doesn't accuse him. He simply asks, again, about the 2:17 a.m. call. And this time, Mark adds something new, like a splinter working its way out of skin. He says when he picked up, before the whisper, there was a sound in the background, a repeating beep. Not a busy signal. Not a dial tone. A beep, measured, like a machine, like a warning. Mercer asks him why he didn't mention it before. Mark swallows. Because I thought I was imagining it, he says. Because I didn't want to be dragged deeper. Mercer hangs up and feels his own pulse throb in his throat, because a repeating beep doesn't belong to street noise. It belongs to devices. It belongs to systems. It belongs to control. They play the tape again with that in mind, and now, under the traffic and the breath and the muffled thump, they hear it, faint, rhythmic, like a metronome buried under fabric. A security panel. A pager. A microwave. A car alarm. A recording device. The lab can't isolate it cleanly, but Mercer can't stop hearing it once it's there. The sound becomes a signature, a fingerprint made of noise. Toronto changes around the investigation. People start locking doors earlier. Parents stop letting teenagers take the subway alone. Women hold keys between their fingers like claws. The city becomes a place where every ordinary action carries a second meaning, where the act of walking home is now a negotiation with fear. And the worst part, the part no one says out loud, is that fear works. It makes people obedient. It makes people quiet. It makes witnesses forget. Then, on a Tuesday morning, a maintenance worker cleaning out a storage room in one of Morrow's buildings finds something behind a loose panel in a utility closet. A small bundle wrapped in a plastic bag, taped shut like someone didn't want air to touch it. He opens it because curiosity is a human reflex, and inside is a women's scarf, blue, patterned, the kind that can be bought anywhere, and a cheap disposable camera, the kind people use for birthdays and vacations and ordinary memories. The maintenance worker brings it to the superintendent, and the superintendent brings it to the police. The scarf doesn't scream Leah. But the camera has a roll of undeveloped film. In the lab, a technician spools it out like it's a vein. They develop it carefully, frame by frame. Most of the photos are garbage, blurred streetlights, a car dashboard, a flash of someone's hand, darkness. But 2 frames stop everyone cold. One shows a woman's face, partially lit, eyes wide, hair messy, mouth slightly open as if she's about to speak. The angle is wrong, invasive, like the camera is being held by someone who wants proof of possession. The second shows a wall with a distinctive peeling paint pattern, and a metal door with a small warning sign, authorized personnel only. The sign is half in shadow, but the typeface is familiar to the officers, who have spent their lives in back halls and utility corridors. It looks municipal. It looks like transit. It looks like somewhere the public isn't supposed to be. Mercer stares at the woman's face until his eyes burn, because he wants it to be Leah, and he also doesn't, because if it's Leah then the horror is real, captured on film, preserved like an insect in amber. The lab can't confirm it. The picture is too grainy. But Sandra Carver sees it and collapses into a chair, fingers pressed over her mouth, and she whispers, "That's her," like she's saying a prayer and a curse at the same time. Now the case has a new weapon, an image, and images are dangerous, because they convince people they know what they're seeing even when they don't. They raid the building. They tear apart the utility closet. They search basements, boiler rooms, storage lockers, crawl spaces that smell like rust and damp concrete. They find nothing. No body. No blood. No mattress. No restraints. No hidden room. Just pipes and dust and silence that feels staged, scrubbed, emptied. And in that silence, Mercer feels something else, something colder than frustration, timing. Because whoever left that camera there didn't leave it by accident. It's a breadcrumb placed years too early, waiting for the right moment to be found. Waiting for the investigation to lean in. The city hears transit backroom and panic blossoms again, because transit is where everyone goes, where everyone disappears into crowds, where everyone trusts the system to carry them safely like a conveyor belt. Officers begin checking restricted areas in stations, maintenance tunnels, service doors that lead into the bones of Toronto. They find graffiti. They find needles. They find sleeping bags. They find the shadow life that always exists under a city's official skin. They don't find Leah. But they do find something else, a new message, scrawled in black marker inside a maintenance corridor near St. George Station, half hidden behind a pipe. She listened. No signature. No date. Just those two words like a slap. Mercer photographs it, bags the marker found nearby, runs it for prints, finds nothing useful, and when he leaves the corridor, stepping back into the bright, ordinary platform where commuters wait with headphones and newspapers, he feels the surreal split that haunts every investigator on an unsolved case. Two Torontos occupying the same space, one full of people heading to work, one full of locked doors and secrets that breathe. And somewhere in that overlap, someone is watching the investigation tighten like a noose, someone who has survived this long by staying one step ahead, someone who has already proven they can reach into the case file and drop a cassette, drop a camera, drop a sentence on a wall, as if the police station itself is not a fortress, but a mailbox. Mercer drives home after midnight with the radio off, the streets slick with winter's first hints, and at a red light he glances up at the dark windows of an apartment building and sees a shape shift behind a curtain. Just a movement, maybe a person, maybe a trick of reflection, and he realizes the true horror isn't only what happened to Leah Carver, it's the possibility that the person who knows is not hiding in some distant void, not vanished into myth, but living ordinary, breathing ordinary. Blending into the same sidewalks Leah once walked, listening to the news like everyone else, smiling at the right moments, waiting for the city to forget. Because the city always forgets, unless something forces it to remember. And that forcing comes on a Friday afternoon when Mercer returns to his office to find a plain envelope on his chair, no one admitting they brought it in, no one recalling a courier, no one seeing a hand place it there, and inside is a single Polaroid photo, glossy and fresh, of a payphone on Bloor Street, Leah's last known corridor of night, shot close, intimate, like a lover's portrait, and taped to the bottom edge of the photo is a strip of paper with 5 words typed in neat, mechanical letters. You missed the second ring. The Polaroid sits on Mercer's desk like a tooth pulled from the city's mouth, small, white-bordered, ordinary, yet it makes the entire station feel contaminated, because this isn't a tip left at the front desk, it isn't a whisper in a bar, it's proof that someone can reach into the investigation whenever they want, touch the evidence, touch the detectives, touch the air they breathe, and the typed line, "You missed the second ring," doesn't read like a confession, it reads like mockery delivered in a calm voice, the kind of calm that only comes from control. Mercer doesn't show it to the press. Not yet. He doesn't even show it to the whole squad. He shows it to two people, his partner, Detective Priya Shah, sharp as broken glass, and Sergeant O'Neill, the kind of supervisor who has seen enough bodies to understand that fear is a resource criminals use like gasoline. Priya stares at the Polaroid, then at Mercer, and says, "This is either someone inside the building or someone who wants us to think that." O'Neill exhales through his nose and says, "Either way, we've got a leak in the roof or a bomb in the basement." They start with the obvious. They lock down the evidence room. They check sign-in sheets. They interrogate the chain of custody like it's a suspect with blood on its hands. They review who had access to Mercer's office, who knew his routine, who knew he'd be gone at lunch, who knew where the chair Saturday. In 1994, there are no digital key logs, no hallway cameras everywhere, just people and paper and the fragile honor system of a building full of tired humans. And humans are the weak point every time. While the station tightens, Mercer drives to Bloor Street and stands where the payphone once hung, now replaced, repainted, ordinary again, and he looks at the street like it's a crime scene that never got taped off. He imagines a hand dropping coins. A shoulder turning away from light. A face hidden under a hood. He imagines Leah's voice, compressed into one word, trapped in the wire, still traveling nowhere. "You missed the second ring." It implies there was more. It implies there was a window. It implies Leah might have been alive at 2:17 a.m. with enough awareness to call, enough strength to try, and that the only reason the line went dead is because somebody made it go dead. Priya pulls phone company records, hard copies, thick stacks, the kind that smell like toner and bureaucracy, and they find something that makes the skin on Mercer's arms tighten. The payphone number in the Polaroid matches the same line that rang Mark Lennox that night. That's expected. But there's another call from that payphone 28 minutes earlier, 1:49 a.m., placed to a number that doesn't belong to Mark, doesn't belong to Leah's family, doesn't belong to anyone in her contact list. The number belongs to a private security firm contracted to several downtown buildings, including, like a punch delivered with timing, the landlord Ronald Morrow's properties. Mercer feels the case pivot on its heel. Because now the beep on the tape starts to look less like a mystery and more like a system. A keypad. A panel. A security line. A controlled door. They bring in the security company manager, a man who wears his tie too tight, sweating through questions. He says they get wrong number calls all the time. He says payphones are notorious. Mercer asks for dispatch logs for that night, 1:30 to 3 a.m. The manager hesitates, then produces them. There was a call. There was a response. 2 guards were dispatched to a property near the address Leah wrote, Midtown, small building, Morrow owned. Time of dispatch, 1:52 a.m. Reason, alarm trigger, rear entry. Time cleared, 2:23 a.m. Notes, false alarm. Area checked. Door secured. False alarm. Door secured. And somewhere between 1:52 and 2:23, Leah's voice may have been pleading into a tape recorder. Mercer and Priya go to the building. It's plain brick, 3 stories, with a narrow alley along the side that smells like wet cardboard and old beer. The rear entry has a metal door with a keypad lock. Mercer runs his hand over the frame, imagining a struggle. Imagining Leah's nails. Imagining skin. There's fresh paint on the lower panel, newer than it should be, like someone tried to erase age. Inside, the hallway is dim, the kind of dim landlords love, because dim hides problems. A tenant peeks out from behind a chain lock, eyes wide, and says the police have been here before, months ago, asking the same questions, looking in the same corners. Mercer asks if anything changed. The tenant swallows and says, The night she vanished, I heard someone in the hallway. Mercer keeps his voice low. What did you hear? Shoes, the tenant says. Fast. Then a thud. Like someone hit the wall. Then a man's voice. Not yelling. Just firm. Like he was telling someone what to do. Mercer asks why the tenant never reported it. The tenant's face hardens into something like shame. Because when I looked through the peephole, he says, I saw one of the security guys. The ones who work with Morrow. And I thought if they are here, it must be fine. Right? Fine. The word tastes like rust. They find the rear stairwell. The paint on the wall is peeling in a pattern that looks exactly like the disposable camera photo, distinctive, flaked in long strips like dead skin. The metal door at the bottom has a faded warning sign, authorized personnel only. Priya's eyes meet Mercer's, and neither of them blinks, because now the image isn't abstract anymore. It's here. The photo wasn't transit. It was this building's utility door. Mercer orders the door opened. The superintendent tries to stall, claims he doesn't have the key, claims it's just storage, claims it's nothing. Priya's stare makes him crumble. The door opens with a reluctant screech, and stale air rolls out, damp concrete, rust, something sour underneath, the smell of a place that hasn't been loved in years. The storage room is small, cluttered, lined with shelves of broken chairs and old paint cans. The floor is dusty. The ceiling is low. A single bare bulb buzzes. Mercer's flashlight beam cuts through like a blade. He looks for obvious signs, restraints, stains, footprints. But criminals don't always leave obvious. Sometimes they leave the kind of evidence that hides, because you don't want to see it. Priya crouches near the wall where the paint peels and touches a dark mark at knee height, a smear that could be grease, could be mold, could be something else entirely. She swabs it. Bags it. Mercer watches her gloved hands and feels time stretch, because this is what the case has become, tiny actions performed under huge pressure, each swab a lottery ticket. Then Mercer sees something on the floor behind a stack of boards, a coin. A single payphone coin, a quarter, worn, dull, stamped with the year 1993. It means nothing. It means everything. He picks it up with gloves, bagging it, and as he does, his flashlight beam catches a thin scratch on the baseboard, like something metal scraped it, dragged along, forced. He follows the scratch line to a corner where the dust is disturbed in a faint arc. He presses his palm down gently. The floorboard flexes. There's a hollow under the concrete. They call in forensics. They bring in the building inspector. They pry at the board. They lift it, and the air that rises from beneath is colder, denser, like it's been sealed away from sunlight for a long time. Under the board is a shallow crawl space, unfinished, hidden, big enough for a human body to be forced into for a short time. Not a grave. A holding. A waiting room for something worse. Inside the crawl space, they find a length of cable, cut ends, the kind used to tie or to secure equipment. They find a torn scrap of fabric caught on a nail, blue patterned, matching the scarf recovered from the utility closet months earlier. Priya doesn't speak. She just stares at it like it's a relic from a crime that refuses to die. Mercer feels a hot, sharp anger rise in his throat, because this is the closest they've come to Leah in months, and it's still not Leah, it's still not her voice speaking freely, it's still only the residue of her absence. They rush the evidence to the lab. The smear on the wall. The quarter. The fabric. The cable. Each one becomes a thread, and the hope, dangerous, desperate, returns like a drug. Then the city throws a new complication into the case. Ronald Morrow is missing. He doesn't show up to collect rent. His office line rings and rings. His cars aren't parked where they should be. His secretary insists he didn't mention travel. The police find his home empty, bed made, dishes in the sink, a half-finished glass of water on the counter like he stepped away mid-sip. His passport is gone. His files are gone. But his suit jacket hangs on a chair, still holding the shape of his shoulders. Mercer hears the news and feels the floor tilt. Because suspects don't vanish unless they are running, or unless they've been taken by the same hand that took Leah. Either possibility is catastrophic. The press erupts again. Landlord linked to missing woman disappears. Toronto cold case heats up. Witness speaks. I heard a thud. The city's appetite grows teeth. People crowd around TVs like they're watching a storm approach their own house. Priya warns Mercer that publicity will spook whoever is behind this. If Morrow was a pawn, the player just realized the board is changing. They track Morrow's last known movements. A gas station receipt. A toll booth sighting. A clerk who remembers his face, because he paid in cash and wouldn't look her in the eye. He was heading west. Then north. Then the trail frays into rural darkness, where highways turn into empty stretches of road and the world stops keeping good records. The kind of place you can bury a secret, with one shovel and a little time. Mercer doesn't sleep. He replays the tape again and again, focusing on the male voice, the cadence, the calm. He compares it to Morrow's interview recordings. The lab says they can't make a positive identification. The public says it's him. The public doesn't need science. The public needs a villain. But Mercer can't shake the feeling that Morrow's voice is too thin, too wheedling, too defensive. The voice on the tape is not defensive. It's imperial. And then the lab calls with a result that hits like a bullet. The smear on the storage room wall contains blood. Human blood. Not enough to build a narrative, not enough to paint a scene, but enough to make the case real in a way it hasn't been. They run what they can. They compare it to Leah's dental records. No. Blood needs blood. They don't have Leah's blood. Not officially. But Priya thinks fast. She calls Leah's mother and asks for anything personal, an old toothbrush, a hairbrush, something that might still hold Leah's DNA. Sandra arrives clutching a plastic bag like it's a newborn. Inside, Leah's hairbrush, bristles loaded with strands that have waited 2 years to matter. The lab extracts DNA, compares it to the smear. Match. Leah was in that storage room. For the first time, Mercer feels certainty slam into place. It's not a theory. It's not a rumor. It's not a tape that might be a prank. Leah's blood was on that wall, at knee height, in a corner near a hidden crawl space. Leah was there. Leah suffered there. And someone cleaned, painted, sealed, staged, tried to make the room look like nothing. The case becomes a kidnapping, a confinement, an assault, maybe worse. And if Leah was there, then where did she go afterward? Mercer orders every Morrow property searched again, this time with dogs, this time with warrants that have teeth, this time with a new ferocity that frightens even the officers executing them. They rip up floorboards. They open walls. They drain sump pumps. They inspect boilers. They search dumpsters and ravines near each building. They find more signs, small, humiliating, horrifying signs. A broken fingernail in a stairwell crack. A strand of hair caught in a vent. A faint smear of blood in a laundry sink. Nothing that leads to a body. Everything that confirms a nightmare. Then the call comes in at 3:05 a.m., the kind of time when the world is quiet enough for evil to sound like a whisper. A woman in Scarborough reports that her phone rang and no one spoke, but she could hear something in the background, traffic, a beep, and a woman's breathing, shallow and panicked. The caller ID reads, payphone. She hung up, terrified. Then it rang again. And again. She didn't answer. She called police instead. Officers traced the call to a payphone near the lake, down by an industrial stretch where warehouses hunch like sleeping beasts, and the wind carries the smell of metal and water. Mercer and Priya arrive as dawn begins to bruise the horizon. The payphone stands alone under a yellow light that makes everything look sick. The receiver hangs off the hook, swaying slightly, as if it was dropped seconds ago. There are fresh coin scratches on the slot. The air feels charged, like the city is holding its breath. Priya lifts the receiver carefully. A dial tone hums. Mercer watches her face, searching for any reaction, any sound, any hint that Leah's voice might still be traveling through wires. And then, from somewhere behind them, from the darkness between warehouses, a car door closes, soft, controlled, and a man's voice, close and calm, speaks a single sentence into the empty morning like a verdict. Tell Mercer, he finally answered. The sentence doesn't echo so much as it settles, heavy and intimate, like someone just leaned in close enough to fog the back of Mercer's neck, and for a split second the world goes silent except for the dial tone humming in Priya's hand and the distant slap of water against pilings, and Mercer realizes with a sick, clean clarity that this isn't a crime being investigated anymore, it's a conversation, one he never agreed to, being conducted on streets and wires and fear. He turns toward the sound. Nothing obvious. No silhouette in the alley gap. No headlights. Just the geometry of warehouses and chain-link fences, and the thin grey light of dawn. Priya's eyes cut through the dark, scanning angles, corners, rooftops, anywhere a person could hide. Mercer raises his voice, controlled but loud enough to carry. Who are you? His words land in empty air like stones in deep water. No answer. Only the receiver's hum and the wind pushing grit across cracked pavement. Then a second sound, subtle but unmistakable, tires rolling slowly over gravel, not accelerating, not fleeing in panic, moving with patient confidence, as if the driver knows exactly how far ahead the police are and exactly how far behind they will always be. Mercer sprints toward the gap between two warehouses, boots pounding, lungs burning with cold air, and when he reaches the corner there's nothing but a smear of taillights disappearing behind stacked shipping containers, fading like a dying cigarette. He chases anyway, because the body does what it does when adrenaline turns the brain into a siren. He rounds another corner. Nothing. Another. Nothing. The car is gone as if it was never there. Priya calls after him, voice sharp, pulling him back from the edge of the trap. Mercer slows, stops, fists clenched, staring at the empty lot like it's laughing at him. He returns to the payphone and sees her still holding the receiver, knuckles pale through her gloves, listening as if the dial tone might suddenly transform into a voice. Someone was here, Mercer says, and it isn't a statement, it's an admission. Priya lowers the receiver, lets it hang, and the plastic clacks against metal like a cheap gavel. Someone wanted you here, she says. Someone wanted to watch you run. They bag the receiver for prints. They photograph the payphone, the ground, the coin scratches, the faint impressions in dirt that might be nothing. A tech finds a cigarette, but near the base, still damp, still fresh enough to smell like someone exhaled seconds ago. They bag it too. In 1994, DNA is a promise more than a weapon, but it's a promise Mercer is willing to bet his career on. He can feel the case tightening around him, not like a noose around a suspect, but like a wire around his own ribs. By mid-morning, the city is awake again, commuters flowing like nothing happened, and the police station becomes a furnace of motion. Priya orders a sweep of payphones within a 3-kilometer radius. Mercer orders every report of weird calls triaged and prioritized. O'Neill orders the press held back, but the press is a tide, and tides don't listen to sergeants. The Polaroid leaks anyway. Someone sells it. Someone whispers it. A headline appears before the ink on Mercer's notes has dried. Payphone taunt, kidnapper mocks police. And with the headline comes the inevitable: copycats, cranks, opportunists. The tip line detonates with noise. I'm the one who did it. She's in my basement. Look under the bridge. She's alive. I saw her at Union Station. Mercer's desk becomes a landfill of voices that want attention more than truth, and every time he lifts a receiver he wonders if he's about to step into the same trap again. The cigarette, but goes to the lab. The quarter goes to the lab. The cable goes to the lab. The scrap of scarf goes to the lab. Evidence becomes a cue, and the cue becomes torture. In the meantime, Mercer does what he can do without machines: he hunts patterns. He pins a map of Toronto on the wall and starts marking every meaningful point: Leah's apartment, the convenience store, the first shoe find, the subway ID bin, the Midtown building, the warehouse payphone by the lake. Lines connect like veins. And as the lines grow, he sees a shape begin to form: not a neat triangle, not a tidy circle, but a corridor, a deliberate route that seems to track the edges between public and private, between lit streets and service doors, between places people belong and places they're not supposed to be. The case isn't scattered. It's guided. Priya joins him, eyes narrowing as she studies the map. This isn't random, she says, as if Mercer needs the reminder. This is someone who knows the city's back doors. Mercer thinks of security firms. Keypads. Authorized personnel signs. He thinks of the beep on the tape again, how it sounded measured, mechanical, indifferent. He thinks of the dispatch log: false alarm, door secured. He thinks of the tenant peering through a peephole, and seeing a uniform and deciding not to call police, because a uniform is supposed to mean safety. And now, with Dawn's taunt still ringing in his ears, Mercer feels the case's true axis slide into view: access. Who has access to doors that lock and unlock with codes? Who has access to corridors that don't appear on public maps? Who has access to the thin spaces where people can be moved without being seen? He orders a list. Every employee of that private security firm. Every guard assigned to Morrow Properties. Every supervisor. Every dispatcher working the night Leah vanished. They pull personnel files, names, addresses, prior complaints, disciplinary notes. Most are boring. Boring is common. But one file isn't boring. One file has a small, ugly smudge. A guard named Victor Hale, 31, hired 6 months before Leah vanished, fired 2 weeks after, officially for policy violations, unofficially for creepy behavior around tenants. Complaints: staring, lingering, showing up where he wasn't assigned, joking about how easy it would be to lock someone in a stairwell. No criminal record. No arrests. Just a trail of discomfort, which is the kind of trail predators leave when they're testing boundaries. Mercer stares at the name and feels a new kind of anger, the kind that comes when you realize how many warning signs the world ignores, because they aren't dramatic enough. They find Hale's last known address: a basement apartment in Etobicoke. They knock. No answer. They force entry with a warrant that smells like urgency. Inside, cheap furniture, a mattress on the floor, a radio on the counter, silence. The place feels abandoned in a hurry. The closet is half empty. The fridge is bare. In the sink is a single coffee mug with a ring of dried brown at the bottom, like someone set it down and never came back. Priya checks the bedroom. Mercer checks the bathroom. O'Neill's team checks the crawlspace under the stairs. Nothing. Then Priya calls out, voice tight. Mercer steps into the bedroom and sees what stopped her: a corkboard on the wall, covered in clipped photographs, women's faces, candid shots, taken from distance, the kind of photos people don't know they're in. Different ages. Different hair. Different neighborhoods. But the same theme, surveillance. The center of the board is Leah Carver's face, cut from a flyer, pinned with a thumbtack through her forehead like a cruel joke. Under Leah's photo is a strip of paper with words written in careful block letters. She listened. Mercer feels his stomach drop, cold and heavy. The message from the transit corridor, she listened, wasn't random. It was a signature. It was a phrase someone held close enough to write twice. They searched the apartment again with a new focus, tearing it apart, looking for tapes, looking for photographs, looking for anything that connects Hale to Leah's last night. They find a keyring in a drawer with multiple key fobs tagged with building codes. Some match Morrow properties. They find a small spiral notebook with dates and times and street names written in tight rows. Some of the dates match the cluster of payphone calls. Some match dispatch logs. Hale wasn't just working. He was tracking. And in a showbox under the bed, they find a cassette case identical to the one mailed to Mercer. No tape inside. Just the case. And on the inside flap, in faint pencil, a phrase, second ring. Mercer's jaw clenches until his teeth ache. This isn't circumstantial anymore. This is a man who speaks the case's language. They put out an APB. Hale becomes the new face on the news, the new villain the city can point at, because now the evidence feels like a story the public understands. Security guard with access, obsessed with women, missing girl, taunting police. It fits too cleanly, which makes Priya wary. She says it out loud, in Mercer's office with the door closed. He could be the guy, she says. Or he could be the guy someone wants us to chase. Mercer wants to argue, but he can't. Because Hale's apartment feels staged too. Like it was meant to be found. Like the corkboard was meant to be seen. Like the thumbtack through Leah's face was meant to provoke a specific kind of rage. The lab calls with the cigarette, but results before night falls. They've pulled a DNA profile. Partial. Not enough to match to a database. But they can compare it to Hale if they get him. It's a carrot dangling over a pit. Mercer goes home late, mind buzzing, and sleeps like a man trying to drown in exhaustion. He dreams of payphones ringing in empty streets. He dreams of Leah's voice trapped on magnetic tape, repeating until it becomes music. He wakes before dawn to his phone ringing, the sound slicing through him so sharp he sits up with his heart already sprinting. Priya's voice is on the line, clipped, urgent. We got a hit, she says. Hale's car was spotted near the port lands, cameras caught the plate. Units are moving. Mercer is out the door in minutes, pulling on a coat, the city outside still dark and wet, streetlights reflecting off pavement like spilled oil. He drives fast, sirens in the distance converging like wolves. By the time he reaches the port lands, red and blue lights are strobing against industrial walls, making the world look like a fever dream. They've found Hale's car, an older sedan, parked near a fenced lot. Empty. Doors locked. No Hale. But on the dashboard is a disposable camera, the same cheap brand as before, sitting there in plain view as if someone set it down with care. Mercer feels a chill crawl up his spine. This is familiar. This is another breadcrumb. Another invitation to touch. A tech photographs the camera in place. Gloves. Bag. Mercer wants to rip it open, wants answers now, but he forces discipline down his throat like medicine. They sweep the area anyway. Warehouses. Containers. Service roads. A drainage ditch. Nothing. Then someone shouts from near the water. A patrol officer stands by a concrete edge, pointing down. Mercer runs over and looks. Something bobs gently in the dark water, catching the weak dawn light. It's a sneaker, women's, worn, floating like a dead fish. Tied to it is a piece of cord, and the cord is tied to something heavier below, something meant to stay down. Divers go in. The water is black, thick with sludge and cold. Mercer watches from the edge, fists clenched so tight his gloves creak. Minutes feel like hours. Then a diver surfaces, eyes wide behind the mask, and calls for a stretcher. They pull up what the cord was holding. A duffel bag. Heavy. Waterlogged. Sealed with duct tape in spirals, methodical, almost artistic. The kind of wrapping that says the person who did it had time. Had control. Had no fear of being interrupted. They cut it open on the shore with cameras rolling, everyone holding their breath, and what's inside doesn't give Mercer the clean horror of closure, it gives him something worse, a tangle of objects, clothes, a scarf, a cassette tape, a handful of coins, a small notebook, and a plastic bag containing strands of hair, trophies, evidence, a shrine, a message. No body. No bones. No finality. Just the implication that the person who put it here wanted them to think the end was near without actually giving them an end. Mercer's eyes lock on the notebook. The cover is swollen from water, but the first page is protected in a plastic sleeve. Inside that sleeve is a single photograph, Leah's face again, closer this time, eyes staring directly into the lens as if she's looking at Mercer across years, across walls, across every locked door he failed to open. A bruise blooms on her cheek. Her lips are split. But she's alive in the frame. Alive and terrified and still present enough to look straight ahead. Beneath the photo, written in the same careful block letters as the corkboard note, is one line, "You're late." And as Mercer stands there with the wind off the lake cutting through him, with officers murmuring and cameras clicking and the city's machinery grinding toward a new headline, he feels the case's true cruelty clamp down on his chest, because whoever is doing this isn't trying to hide what happened, they're controlling when Mercer gets to see it, how much, and in what order, like the investigation itself is on a leash, and somewhere out there, in the grey light of another Toronto morning, someone is listening for the second ring again, smiling at the sound of a city realizing it's still not in charge. The duffel bag doesn't feel like evidence, it feels like a throat clearing, like the case itself, just leaned closer to the microphone, and the moment Mercer sees Leah's bruised face staring out from that plastic sleeve, the whole shoreline tilts into something unreal, sirens wailing somewhere behind him, wind worrying at tape strips like fingernails, officers talking in low tones that sound far away, and all he can think is that someone kept her alive long enough to photograph her like this, long enough to arrange this, long enough to decide exactly when Mercer would be allowed to see her eyes again. They move the bag like it might bite. Chain of custody. Gloves. Photos. Bags inside bags. They seal it all and drive it back under flashing lights, the kind of spectacle that convinces the public something is finally happening even when the truth is still running a step ahead. Inside the lab, the duffel's contents are laid out on stainless steel like offerings on an altar, the scarf, damp and reeking of lake water, the coins, corroded in places, the notebook, swollen but guarded by plastic, the cassette tape in its case, the label smeared but still readable, listen, and the hair, sealed in a bag as if the person who collected it understood biology well enough to preserve a future weapon. Priya stands beside Mercer, jaw tight, eyes bright with anger that looks almost like grief. "This is theater," she says. "He wants us chasing props." Mercer doesn't answer, because his throat is too tight with the image of Leah's split lip. Alive. In that frame, she's not an abstraction, not a missing person flyer, not a name typed on a file tab. She's a woman trapped in someone else's story, and Mercer feels the oldest, ugliest instinct rise up, the need to smash something until it makes sense. They run the hair first. DNA. Mitochondrial comparison to Sandra's sample. It comes back fast enough to feel like an accusation. It's Leah. The strands in that bag came from her head. Someone cut them. Someone pulled them. Someone kept them. The city has been right to be afraid. Then they turn to the cassette tape. Everyone in the room watches, as if it's a live grenade. The technician slides it into a player, hands steady in a way Mercer envies, and presses play. There's a hiss, then sound blooms, traffic again, but different traffic, closer to water, the rumble of trucks, the distant clank of metal, and beneath it the same faint, rhythmic beep, clearer now, not imaginary, not a guess, and then Leah's voice, and there's no doubt this time, because she says her own name like it's the last thing she owns. Leah, she whispers, breath shaking. Leah Carver. If anyone hears this. A sharp intake of breath. A muffled scuffle. A man's voice, calm and close, the same imperial cadence Mercer has started hearing in his nightmares. Say it right. Leah swallows hard, and her next words come out forced into structure, like someone is holding her by the spine and making her perform. I left on my own, she says. I wanted to disappear. No one made me. A pause. The beep continues. Mercer imagines a keypad. A panel. A timer. The man's voice murmurs, almost gentle. Good girl. Again. And this time, don't cry. Leah's breath catches. The tape captures it like a heartbeat. I wanted to disappear, she repeats, and now the tremor in her voice sounds less like sadness, and more like rage strangled into obedience. No one made me. The tape cuts, hard, abrupt, then resumes with a new environment, quieter, more enclosed, the faint drip of water somewhere, and Leah's voice again, lower, rawer. Please, she says, and it doesn't sound like begging anymore. It sounds like talking to a wall that has never once answered. Please, I did it. The man replies with a soft laugh, the kind that makes Mercer's skin crawl, because it carries no joy. You did what I told you. That's different. The tape ends. A click. A hollow silence. And in that silence, Mercer realizes the most brutal truth of all. This isn't just a killer leaving taunts. This is someone who has rehearsed control, who understands fear like a language, who is turning Leah's disappearance into a script where every line is written to misdirect and humiliate and prove power. Priya's eyes are wet, but her voice stays hard. That's not Hale, she says. Hale's a creep. That voice is trained. Mercer agrees without speaking. Victor Hale, with his corkboard and his cheap bravado, might stalk women and collect photos, might enjoy the idea of ownership. But the voice on that tape is not a man scrambling for control. It's a man who has never doubted he has it. They develop the disposable camera next. It's like watching a ghost emerge. Frame after frame appears under red light, more blurred streets, more partial faces, flashes of concrete, the interior of a car. Then the images sharpen into horror. Leah's face again, different angles, her eyes duller now, exhaustion hollowing her features. A close-up of her wrist, with a red abrasion like she's been bound. A shot of a metal keypad panel mounted beside a door. The keypad has a small brand logo, common in commercial security systems. Priya calls out the type without hesitation. That's not residential, she says. That's facility grade. Another photo shows a hallway, linoleum, fluorescent lights, pale walls, with a sign on a door, maintenance. Another shows a bulletin board with a printed safety notice, and a logo in the corner that Mercer recognizes from years of walking through municipal buildings, a City of Toronto crest. His stomach drops. This is public property, he says. Not just public. Controlled. Access limited. Staff only. Now the case's corridor map gains a new spine. Private buildings, Security systems. Municipal hallways. Places where keys and codes open doors the public never sees. Places where uniforms grant you invisibility. They run the keypad brand. They pull procurement records, maintenance contracts, lists of where that exact model was installed in the early 90s. The list is long enough to be a forest, but Priya and Mercer don't need the whole forest. They need the tree that fits the photos. The hallway's angle. The door signage. The crest placement. They spend hours comparing the photo to floor plans, to archived renovation shots, to anything they can get their hands on. It narrows to 3 sites. A municipal storage facility. A records annex. A service corridor connected to a transit maintenance building near the port lands. The port lands again. Always the port lands. The same industrial shoreline where the duffel bag surfaced, where tail lights vanished between containers, where the city's bones jut out into the lake. Mercer feels a bitter certainty settle in. Someone is using the waterfront as a stage, because it has space, because it has noise, because it has the kind of emptiness that eats screams. They request access to the transit maintenance building under the clean excuse of inspection. They don't announce the case. They don't broadcast the plan. Mercer has learned the hard way that the case leaks like a cracked pipe. He trusts Priya. He trusts O'Neill, mostly. Beyond that, he trusts paper and locks and luck. The building smells like oil and cold metal. It's busy in the day, quiet in the edges, full of corridors that curve away into dimness. A manager in a hard hat leads them through, proud of his facility, proud of its order, unaware he's walking them past a possible grave. Mercer watches the workers, the uniforms, the keycards clipped to belts. Anyone here could pass through doors without being noticed. Anyone here could make a woman disappear into maintenance. They reach the corridor that matches the photo, and Mercer's pulse spikes, because the angle is right, the scuff marks on the baseboard are right, the way the fluorescent light casts a thin shadow under the door is right. The keypad panel is there on the wall beside the door, and the brand logo matches. Priya leans in, eyes scanning the wear patterns on the buttons. Certain keys are more polished than others, used more often. She doesn't touch it. She photographs it. The manager laughs nervously. "You guys expecting to find Jimmy Hoffa," he jokes, and Mercer looks at him long enough that the joke dies in the man's mouth. "We're expecting to find truth," Mercer says. The manager swallows and opens the door. The room beyond is a storage space, tools, parts, shelves of paint cans, a smell of dust and solvent. It looks like 1,000 other municipal rooms. Too normal. Mercer steps in and feels the case's cruel intelligence hovering. The simplest hideouts are the ones dressed as boring. He scans corners, floors, walls. Priya moves like a blade, methodical, controlled. Then she stops at the far wall where a metal cabinet sits slightly away from the baseboard, an odd gap behind it. She crouches, shines her light. There's scratch damage on the floor, fresh compared to surrounding dust, as if the cabinet has been dragged recently. She stands, nods to Mercer. Together they pull it away. Behind it is a vent panel, larger than standard, bolted in place. The bolts look newer than the surrounding metal, shiny, recently handled. Mercer's mouth goes dry. He signals to the uniformed officers with them, and within minutes tools are brought, bolts loosened. The vent panel comes away with a reluctant pop, and cold air exhales from inside like the building is breathing. The duct is large enough for a person to crawl through, and Mercer hates the fact that his mind can picture it so clearly. Hands scraped on metal, knees on dust, breath echoing in a narrow tunnel. Priya shines her light into the darkness, and something glints back. A reflective surface, curved. A pair of glasses. Women's frames. Thin. Bent at one temple. Sandra Carver had shown Mercer a photo of Leah wearing glasses like that while studying, pushing them up her nose with ink-stained fingers. Mercer doesn't say the name aloud. He doesn't have to. Priya's face tightens with the same recognition. They crawl in anyway, because the human mind clings to action when it can't handle truth. The duct opens into a second space, a maintenance void above a ceiling, a place that smells of insulation and trapped air. Priya's light sweeps across it, catching dust motes like tiny ghosts. Then it catches something else, a strip of fabric snagged on a nail, blue-patterned. The scarf again. And then Mercer sees the dark stain on the plywood floor, old but not ancient, darker than water, irregular, soaked into grain like a memory that refuses to wash out. He kneels, touches near it with gloved fingers, feeling the stiff texture. Blood dries like rust. He has seen it too many times to pretend otherwise. They call for forensics, for luminol, for every tool that turns silence into story. The manager stands below, pale, hands shaking, suddenly understanding the scale of what his maintenance corridor might have held. A worker whispers, Jesus, and crosses himself. The luminol blooms under the blacklight, like a constellation of violence, splatter patterns, drag marks, a footprint shape that looks like someone tried to step around the worst of it and failed. Priya's voice comes out flat, controlled, the way it does when her emotions are locked behind steel. She was here, she says. Mercer feels the ground drop out from under him, because was is a word with teeth. It implies time. It implies movement. It implies a beginning and a middle and, somewhere out there, an end. Then the most chilling discovery slides out of a seam in the plywood when a tech lifts it. A tiny cassette microtape, the kind used for dictation recorders, wrapped in plastic like someone wanted it preserved. The label is a single typed line, second ring, master. Mercer's heart hits his ribs like a fist. Master, he says quietly, and the word hangs in the air like smoke. Because there's a difference between a man who stalks and a man who directs. Between a guard like Hale and a voice like the one on the tape. Master implies a hierarchy. A structure. A teacher. Or a superior. They rush the microtape back to the lab under tighter security than a drug shipment. Mercer sits in the lab chair, hands clenched, eyes fixed on the recorder as the technician loads it. Priya stands behind him, arms crossed, jaw set. O'Neill hovers near the door, face hard. The technician presses play. At first it's just room tone, quiet, enclosed, the hum of ventilation. Then a man speaks, and Mercer's skin crawls, because it's not the calm voice from Leah's tape. It's a different male voice, rougher, younger, anxious. I did what you said, the voice whispers. I moved her. I got her to the place. A second voice interrupts, low and perfectly controlled, the same imperial cadence, the same intimate closeness. Stop talking like a child, it says. You don't move her. You escort her. Words matter. The younger voice swallows. I escorted her, it corrects, like a student being disciplined. Good, the controlled voice says. Now listen carefully. When it rings, you wait. First ring is panic. Second ring is hope. Hope makes people stupid. Mercer's stomach turns, because the line lands like an instruction manual for cruelty, and even in fiction it feels too real. The voice continues, smooth, satisfied. You let him miss it. You let him feel it. Then you give him something small, something wet, something that looks like progress. You understand? Yes, the younger voice says. And Hale, the controlled voice adds, almost amused. He wants to be noticed. Let him. Feed his little fantasies. He'll hold the spotlight while we work. Priya's hand clamps onto Mercer's shoulder, hard enough to hurt. Mercer doesn't flinch. His eyes stay on the recorder like if he stares long enough, the voice will crawl out of it in handcuffs. The controlled voice murmurs one last line before the tape ends. Toronto loves a villain. Give them one. Meanwhile, the city will keep ringing for us. The microtape clicks off. Silence fills the lab again, thick and suffocating, and Mercer realizes with a clarity that makes his vision sharpen into a tunnel, Victor Hale isn't the mastermind. His bait. A pawn. A mask that someone else is wearing to keep their own face out of the light. And if Hale was being used, then Hale might already be dead. Or worse, still out there, still obedient, still listening for the second ring. Mercer stands so fast the chair scrapes the floor. Priya's eyes meet his, and in them he sees the same terrible conclusion forming. They've been chasing the wrong man, because someone wanted them to. The real voice, the one on Leah's tapes, the one on the microtape, belongs to someone with access and patience and authority, someone who understands systems, because he lives inside them, someone who can turn municipal corridors into cages and private security into a leash. O'Neill's phone rings, and for a heartbeat Mercer freezes at the sound, because every ring has been poisoned now, every ring feels like a taunt. O'Neill answers, listens, and his face drains of color. They found a body, he says quietly. Male. In a ditch north of the city. Wallet says Victor Hale. Mercer's mouth goes dry. Priya exhales a single sharp breath, like the air was punched out of her. O'Neill continues, voice low. And Mercer, his hands are zip-tied behind his back. The room seems to tilt again, because now the pawn has been discarded, and whoever is playing this game just changed tactics, and Mercer feels the cold edge of the next truth sliding into place. The mastermind isn't just ahead of them anymore, he's tightening the circle, removing pieces, cleaning the board, and somewhere in Toronto, a phone is already starting to ring. Victor Hale's body doesn't arrive like a solution, it arrives like a warning sign ripped out of the ground and thrown through a window, because the moment Mercer sees the zip ties biting into Hale's wrists, the whole case rearranges itself in his head and he understands something the public never wants to hear. When a pawn turns up bound and discarded, it means the hand moving pieces has decided the board is getting crowded, and the hand is not afraid to cut fingers to keep control. The ditch is an ugly place north of the city, winter-stiff grass, dirty snow piled in ridges, the kind of roadside emptiness that makes you feel like the world ends, just beyond the tree line. Hale's sedan is gone. His wallet is present, almost too present, like a planted signature for identification, and there's no struggle marks around the body, no scattered gravel, no broken branches, just a neat abandonment, as if someone placed him here the way someone placed Leah's shoe, Leah's ID, Leah's duffel bag, each object delivered with a message. You don't find what I don't want you to find. The medical examiner peels back the story with practiced hands. Bruising around the neck. Petechial hemorrhaging. Strangulation. Not frantic. Controlled. The zip ties are industrial grade, the type used by electricians, installers, maintenance crews who don't have time for knots. Hale's fingers show defensive abrasion. He fought, but not long. Sedation is suspected. A needle mark at the inside of the elbow, tiny, almost polite. Mercer watches the report being spoken aloud and feels his jaw tighten until his teeth throb, because every detail screams the same theme, competence. Priya runs the zip ties. She calls procurement. City supply chains. Contractors. Transit maintenance. Private security. Any place that buys those ties in bulk. The list is a blizzard of possibilities, but one thread stands out. The ties match a batch ordered for the transit maintenance building near the port lands, the same building with the vent panel and the blood constellation. It's not proof, not enough for a warrant by itself, but it's another nudge toward the same conclusion. The mastermind isn't operating around the system, his operating inside it. And inside becomes the word that haunts Mercer now. Inside the buildings. Inside the corridors. Inside the police station, maybe. Because that Polaroid didn't walk into his office on its own. Somebody put it on his chair. Somebody knew which payphone mattered. Somebody knew the second ring wasn't just a phrase, it was an obsession. Mercer calls a meeting in a room without windows, the kind of room where voices sound flatter and truths feel sharper. Priya is there. O'Neill is there. 2 senior detectives. An internal affairs liaison, who looks like he's already decided everyone is guilty of something. Mercer lays out the pieces: Hale's corkboard, the microtape, the municipal corridor, the duffel bag, the voice coaching, the way Hale was used like a torch and then snuffed. He doesn't say leak at first because the word is explosive, but it hovers in the air anyway. Priya says it for him. Somebody is feeding him, she says. Or somebody is him. Nobody speaks for a moment, because accusing a building of being porous is like accusing your own skin. Then O'Neill shifts, eyes hard. We lock down information, he says. Need to know. We compartmentalize. He's been dancing around our steps, because he knows our steps. Internal Affairs recommends a quiet audit. Who accessed the file, who signed evidence out, who handled the tape. Mercer hates it because audits are slow and this case is a live wire, but he also knows the irony. The mastermind's greatest weapon is the same thing the police rely on: routine. Habit. Predictability. So Mercer breaks his own. He stops driving the same route. He stops answering his phone the first ring. He stops sleeping at home every night. The city, meanwhile, is eating itself with paranoia. Call-in shows buzz with theories. Women carry whistles. Men stand in groups outside bars and scan the street like predators are visible if you look hard enough. Leah's name becomes shorthand for a nightmare. Don't end up like Leah. Flyers fade under rain and sun, but her face refuses to disappear from the mental landscape. For Sandra Carver, time turns into a cruel loop. Every morning begins with the same question, and every night ends with the same silence. She keeps Leah's room untouched. She keeps the phone line active. She keeps a lamp on by the window, as if light could guide someone home through walls. Mercer visits Sandra in the late afternoon, because there are things the file can't hold, the human weight of waiting. He tells her about Hale. He doesn't play the new tape for her. He doesn't show her the photos again. He watches her fingers tremble as she pours tea, the way she sets cups down carefully so they don't clink, like she's learned that noise can be unbearable. Was she alive? Sandra asks, and the question is a blade. Mercer answers the only way he can, with truth sharpened by uncertainty. She was alive when those photos were taken, he says. We don't know after that. Sandra closes her eyes, and Mercer feels something crack behind his ribs, because there are pains even a hardened detective can't metabolize. That night, Priya calls him from the lab. Her voice is tight, threaded with adrenaline. We ran audio on the microtape again, she says. It's not just voices. There's something under it. Mercer drives to the station without sirens, because he's learned to fear attention. In the lab, Priya points to a waveform on a screen, a jagged heartbeat. The background hum, she says. It's not ventilation. It's electrical interference. Like a transformer. Like a specific building's grid. They compare it to known recordings from municipal sites, archived maintenance tapes, training videos, even old radio chatter recorded in corridors. It's a long shot. It's a prayer in the language of machinery. And then a technician, half asleep, half obsessed, finds a match to an interference signature recorded in a City of Toronto Records annex, an old building retrofitted with outdated wiring that produces a distinctive low-frequency buzz when you record inside certain rooms. It's the kind of detail no criminal would consider unless he didn't have to, unless the building wasn't a hideout chosen, but a place of work, familiar and convenient. Mercer feels the case tighten. Who works there, he asks. Priya spreads out a list. City employees. Contractors. Security. Maintenance. The names blur until one jumps like a flare. A facilities supervisor named Graham Sloan. Mid-40s. Clean record. Highly rated. Oversees keycard access and alarm systems at multiple municipal properties, including the Transit Maintenance Building. Formerly served in a military logistics unit before transitioning to civilian work. Calm under pressure. Excellent attention to procedure, reads an evaluation note. Mercer hates that sentence instantly, because procedure is what the voice on the tape worships. They pull Sloan's personnel file. He's the kind of man who disappears into respectability, married once, divorced, no children, no criminal complaints, volunteers occasionally, the kind of name you'd forget if it wasn't printed on paper. Priya finds something else. Sloan briefly consulted for the private security firm that employed Victor Hale, designing access protocols, training modules, the kind of work that teaches you how people move through doors and how to control those movements. Mercer sits back in his chair and stares at the wall, because suddenly the mastermind's voice, words matter. You escort her. You don't move her. Sounds exactly like a man who lives in policies and checklists and controlled language. But suspicion isn't evidence, and Mercer has been burned by neat narratives before. He orders surveillance. Quiet. Careful. He doesn't want another staged apartment. He doesn't want another breadcrumb meant to be found. He wants to watch the man in the spaces between his official life. They shadow Sloan for days. Sloan drives an unremarkable car. He arrives at work on time. He carries a thermos. He talks to employees with measured calm. He walks corridors like he belongs to them. He swipes keycards without looking at the reader. He checks alarm panels with a quick glance, hands moving with practiced certainty. He leaves at 5:12 p.m. most nights and drives home to a townhouse that looks like every other townhouse, neat lawn, blinds drawn, porch light on. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that screams predator. And yet, Mercer can't stop seeing the same pattern, control, routine, access. On the fifth night, Sloan breaks routine. He leaves work later, 8:47 p.m., and instead of going home he drives south toward the waterfront. The surveillance unit follows at a distance, headlights off when possible, slipping through traffic like shadows. Sloan turns into an industrial strip near the port lands. He parks behind a building that looks half abandoned, half maintained, the kind of place where the city stores things it doesn't want the public to remember. He gets out, walks to a side door, swipes a card, disappears inside. Mercer is called in. He arrives minutes later, heart thumping with the brutal knowledge that timing is everything, and the mastermind has been teaching them timing from the start. Priya meets him in an unmarked car, face pale under dashboard light. He's in there, she says. We don't have enough for a breach. Mercer stares at the building's dark windows and thinks of Leah in that photo, eyes staring, bruised, present. Enough, he thinks, is a luxury the living can't always afford. They decide on a controlled approach. Uniforms held back. Tactical team on standby. They don't want to spook him into vanishing like smoke. They wait. Minutes stretch. The city's noise is thin in the industrial night, distant trucks, the whistle of wind through fences, the occasional slap of water. At 9:26 p.m., a light flicks on inside the building, a rectangle of pale glow behind a high window. Mercer's pulse spikes. Priya's hand tightens on her radio. They hear nothing else. No yelling. No struggle. Just that light. Then, at 9:31, the light goes off again. Sloan exits at 9:34 p.m. carrying a small hard-sided case. Not heavy. Not big. The kind of case you'd carry if you didn't want something crushed. He walks to his car, opens the trunk, sets the case inside, closes it with a soft click. He doesn't look around like a man afraid. He looks around like a man checking his perimeter out of habit. Mercer gives the order. 2 unmarked cars slide in. Blue and red lights flare, sudden and violent in the dark, painting the building and Sloane's face in alternating colors. For a fraction of a second, Mercer sees Sloane's expression, surprise, yes, but not panic. Not guilt-face panic. More like irritation. Like a schedule disrupted. Graham Sloane, Mercer says as he steps out, voice controlled, badge visible. We need to talk. Sloane raises his hands slowly, palms out, calm as a man demonstrating compliance for an audience. Detective, he says, voice mild. This is unexpected. Mercer keeps his eyes on Sloane's face while Priya moves to the car. Open the trunk, Mercer says. Sloane tilts his head slightly. Do you have a warrant? Priya's jaw clenches. Mercer holds Sloane's gaze. Open it, he repeats, softer now, and something in that softness is a threat. Sloane exhales, reaches for his keys with deliberate movements, opens the trunk. Inside is the hard-sided case. Priya lifts it, looks at Mercer. Mercer nods. She flips the latches. Inside, a tape recorder. A fresh cassette. A small stack of Polaroids still in their plastic film sleeves. And a manila envelope with typed words visible through the thin paper. Second ring, transcript. Mercer's mouth goes dry. He looks up at Sloane. You want to tell me what this is? Sloane's eyes flick to the case, then back, calm returning like a mask sliding into place. Training materials, he says. I consult on communications protocols. Priya's laugh is sharp, humorless. Protocols, she spits. Mercer steps closer until he can see the pores on Sloane's skin, until the cold air between them feels like a wire pulled taut. Where is Leah Carver? He asks, and his voice cracks at the edges because even the strongest anger has grief underneath it. Sloane's expression doesn't change much. But his lips tighten, the smallest shift, like someone just corrected his grammar. I don't know who that is, he says. And then, from somewhere inside the building behind them, a phone begins to ring, faint at first, then louder through the walls, a sound that doesn't belong out here, because there shouldn't be any active lines in a place like this, and Mercer feels his blood turn to ice as the ring continues, 1, 2, 3, the same cadence that has stalked them through months, through tapes, through taunts, and Priya whips her head toward the door, eyes wide, because that ring isn't just noise, it's a signal. And Mercer suddenly understands the trap's shape too late. The building isn't just storage, it's a stage, and Sloane didn't come here to hide evidence. He came here to make sure they were close enough to hear the next call. The ringing stops. A click follows, like someone picked up. And Leah's voice, older now, rougher, barely more than breath, slides out of the darkness of that building and into the night air through a speaker somewhere unseen, saying one word that hits Mercer like a fist to the heart. Mom. The word mom doesn't sound like a clue, it sounds like a wound reopening. It drags the entire case out of paperwork and into raw human nerve, and for a split second Mercer forgets the building, forgets Sloane's calm face, forgets the cold wind off the lake, because that single syllable carries a whole universe. Sunday phone calls, a lamp left on, a mother's hands shaking over a teacup, and the fact that it's coming through a hidden speaker, in a dead industrial shell makes it feel less like hope. And more like something cruel wearing Hope's skin. Priya moves first, like instinct in a human body, lunging toward the door with her flashlight already up, her radio already cracking with clipped commands, and Mercer snaps back into motion, as if his spine has been yanked by a wire, shouting for the tactical team, shouting for perimeter, shouting for someone, anyone, to keep eyes on Sloane, because the ringing was not an accident, it was a trigger, and triggers mean timing, and timing is the only religion this person has ever truly believed in. Sloane stands between two police cars with his hands still raised, still wearing that careful, controlled expression, and in the strobe of the emergency lights his face looks strangely composed, almost bored, as if he's watching a demonstration he's already rehearsed. Mercer steps toward him, close enough to smell cold metal and faint cologne, and leans in hard, voice low. If that's her, Mercer says, if you're using her voice. Sloane's eyes flicker once, a tiny reflex, and Mercer sees it, not fear, not guilt, but satisfaction. You wanted to hear her, Sloane murmurs, so softly it's almost swallowed by the wind. Now you have. Mercer turns away before he does something irreversible, because the building is calling louder than his rage. Priya and two officers yank the side door open and sweep in, weapons up, lights cutting across concrete like blades. Mercer follows, and the air inside hits him with the smell of dust and old oil and something electrical, a faint hot wire tang like a transformer room. The corridor is narrow, cluttered, the kind of place that creates blind corners and echoes are the enemy, because they turn every footstep into a question. Police? Priya shouts, voice sharp enough to crack glass. Show your hands. Silence answers, thick and patient. Then the speaker clicks again somewhere deeper inside, and Leah's voice returns, not as a full sentence, not as a plea, just as breath and fragments, the sound of someone trying to talk through exhaustion. Mom, please don't. The words smear together, thin as paper, and Mercer feels his stomach twist, because even if it's a recording, it's still her, still the sound of her throat, still proof she existed beyond the flyers and the tape hiss. Priya's light sweeps up and catches a small black speaker mounted high in a corner, cheap, but neatly installed. She aims her weapon at it, then hesitates, because destroying it might destroy the only thing connecting them to Leah's last known words. Mercer forces himself to think like an investigator, not like a man watching a mother's nightmare being weaponized. Find the source, he snaps. Recorder. Control room. Anything. They push through the building in a tight formation, moving past stacks of city equipment, old signage, traffic cones, crates stamped with municipal inventory numbers. Everything here screams bureaucracy, ordinary systems, the kind of ordinary that makes extraordinary crimes easier, because no one wants to believe horror can live in an invoice. The deeper they go, the more the building feels like a maze designed by someone who understands how to hide in plain infrastructure, doors that lead to tiny maintenance closets, corridors that dead-end into padlocked gates, stairwells that climb to catwalks where shadows collect like dust. And always the speaker, clicking at intervals, dripping out Leah's voice like a slow leak, never enough to build context, just enough to keep Mercer running toward it like a starving man toward a smell. In a back room, Priya finds the control. A portable tape deck wired into an amplifier, cables snaking along the floor, power running from a wall outlet that shouldn't be active but is. The tape deck's play button is down. A cassette spins inside, and through the cheap amplifier Leah's voice continues, looping. Mercer steps closer and sees the label on the cassette, typed neat, MOM call. He wants to smash it. He wants to cradle it. He wants to do anything but stand there helpless. Priya yanks the tape out, stops the sound, and the sudden silence that follows is almost worse, because now the building feels dead again, like it swallowed her voice and is daring them to find anything else. Mercer exhales, slow. It's not live, he says, and the words feel like a defeat and a relief at the same time. Not live means Leah isn't in the next room waiting to be dragged into daylight. Not live also means Leah might never have been here tonight at all. A shout cracks over the radio, perimeter unit, urgent. Movement. Rear of the building, someone's running. Mercer's head snaps up. Priya's eyes meet his. Both of them think the same thing, diversion. The voice, the ring, the tape loop, designed to pull them inside while something else happened outside. Mercer bolts, sprinting back through corridors, boots slamming on concrete, heart hammering like a warning drum. He bursts out a side exit into cold night air and sees chaos in the strobing lights, officers running, flashlights bouncing, someone shouting directions that dissolve into wind. A figure is cutting across the lot toward the fence line, fast, low, and for a second Mercer thinks it's Sloan, but Sloan was cuffed, watched, unless he wasn't. Mercer runs anyway, lungs burning, the ground uneven under his feet, gravel spitting up. The figure reaches the fence, climbs with practice speed, drops on the other side, and disappears behind stacked containers like the city's own teeth. Shots are not fired. Nobody wants that headline. Nobody wants to risk killing the wrong silhouette. Mercer hits the fence and peers through the chain link, flashlight sweeping. Nothing. Just darkness and angles. The figure is gone. Behind him, an officer's voice yells, "He's gone, Sloan's gone." Mercer whips around and the world narrows to one brutal fact. While they were inside chasing a voice, someone outside undid the cuffs, someone helped a man walk away, or someone made it look like they did. Mercer sprints back to the arrest scene and sees an empty patch of pavement where Sloan stood. One set of cuffs lies on the ground, open. Clean. Not broken. Opened with a key. Mercer's mouth goes dry. Priya arrives beside him, breathing hard. "Who was on him?" she demands, eyes flashing. Two officers stammer, pointing, blaming the running figure, blaming the confusion, blaming the fact that the lights made everything look like a carnival. Mercer doesn't scream. He doesn't have the energy. He only feels the cold certainty spread through him like ink. The mastermind didn't just taunt them tonight. He orchestrated an extraction. They sweep the area again, larger radius, dogs called, helicopters requested, but the Portlands absorb pursuit like water absorbs footprints. By dawn, they have nothing but tire tracks crisscrossing gravel, and the sick knowledge that they stood within arm's reach of a man they suspect is central to the case and watched him slip out through a hole that shouldn't exist. Back at the station, the internal audit turns into a wildfire. Priya, refusing to let the night be only loss, digs into the seized case from Sloan's trunk. Tape recorder. Fresh cassette. Polaroids. The manila envelope labeled second ring, transcript. Inside the envelope is exactly what the label promised: typed pages, clean formatting, time stamps, lines of dialogue, like a play script. Mercer reads it and feels nauseated, because it isn't just notes, it's choreography. First ring, let it ring out. Second ring, record breathing. Say, words matter. Reinforce obedience. Use city corridor. Use hail as light source. It's an instruction manual for psychological cruelty, written by someone who treats human beings like props. And on the last page, in bold, centered, is a line that makes Mercer's stomach drop into his shoes. If they chase you, let them. If they catch you, they didn't. Mercer stares at the sentence until the letters blur, because it explains everything: the staged apartment, the corkboard, the taunting messages, the carefully dropped evidence. Catching someone was always part of the plan, because the point wasn't to avoid capture, it was to weaponize it. To turn arrest into misdirection. To pull police resources into a black hole, while the real story continued elsewhere. Priya flips through the Polaroids next, gloved hands careful, eyes hard. Most are of payphones, different locations, different nights, shot like trophies. Some are of maintenance doors and keypads. And one, near the bottom of the stack, freezes her hand mid-motion. She holds it up so Mercer can see. It's a Polaroid of Mercer. Not at the lake. Not chasing a silhouette. Not under strobing lights. It's Mercer in his own neighborhood, stepping out of a convenience store, carrying a bag, head slightly turned as if he sensed something. The photo is dated, handwritten on the white border, 2 days ago. Mercer feels the skin on his arms tighten. He's been watching me, he says, voice flat. Priya's eyes flick to him, then back to the photo. He's been watching all of us, she replies. He just decided to show you. The city is awake outside the station windows, people buying coffee, kids going to school, life moving forward, because life always moves forward. Inside the station, the case curdles into something darker, something personal. Mercer's phone rings constantly now, tips, media, angry citizens. Sandra Carver calling to ask what Mom meant and Mercer swallowing the urge to lie to comfort her, because comfort built on lies collapses into more pain later. He tells Sandra the truth, the voice was a recording, but it was her daughter's voice. There is proof Leah was alive when it was recorded. There is proof the person responsible is still controlling what they reveal. Sandra doesn't cry. She goes quiet, the kind of quiet that frightens Mercer more than screaming. So she called for me, Sandra whispers finally. And he made you hear it? Yes, Mercer says, and the word feels like a confession of failure. That evening, as the sun drops early and turns the city's glass into bruised orange, Priya returns from a records search with her face tight, and her hair coming loose from its clip. We found something, she says, and Mercer can tell by her tone that it isn't a clean win. It's a new layer of rot. The building where the microtape interference matched, the records annex, has a locked sub-basement level not on public floor plans. A legacy space from an older construction phase, used for storage, rarely entered. Access requires a master key held by facilities supervisors and, Mercer's stomach turns, 2 keys held by police liaison officers assigned to municipal buildings for security coordination. Names are on the access sheet. One of them is a man Mercer knows. A man he drinks coffee with. A man who has walked past Leah's flyers without stopping. Mercer stares at the name and feels the case's true horror reveal itself like a slow turn of a knife. This isn't just one predator with a keycard. This is a network of doors and people who can open them, a system where authority and access can become camouflage, and the mastermind has been speaking in the language of procedure, because procedure is the perfect hiding place. Mercer doesn't sleep that night. He sits at his kitchen table with the transcript pages spread out like a map, the Polaroid of himself propped against a mug, and he listens to the silence between city sounds, the distant siren, the neighbor's TV through the wall, the hum of his fridge. And he realizes the case has reached the point where the city itself feels like a suspect. Every locked door a mouth that might have swallowed Leah. Every ring of a phone a potential trigger. Every uniform a coin flip between safety and threat. At 2:17 a.m., his landline rings. Mercer's heart stops for a fraction of a second, because the timestamp slams him back to the beginning, to Mark Lennox waking to a call he didn't understand, to a missed second ring that became a lifetime of regret. Mercer doesn't answer on the first ring. He stares at the phone as if it's a live animal. Second ring. He picks up. For a moment there is only breathing, slow, controlled, too calm to be human fear. Then a man's voice slips into the line, intimate and amused, the same voice that coached obedience on the microtape, the same voice that turned Leah's pain into script. Better, the voice says softly. Now you're learning.